Chapter 50. Chu Xiu and Zhang Songling took their seats in the living room. Only Zhang Baichen was still in a daze. They were clearly enemies. How could they sit here and talk about business in the blink of an eye? Zhang Baichen was about to say something, but Zhang Songling glared at him and stopped him. Zhang Songling looked at Chu Xiu and said in a deep voice, "You just touched a member of my Zhang family, and now you want to talk about business with my Zhang family? What kind of business are you talking about?" Chu Xiu said indifferently, "In a few days, it will be the annual auction of the secret box in Linzhong Commandery. I happen to know some insider information. Among the secret boxes, there are a few that I need. But I am not from Linzhong Commandery. If I participate in the auction rashly and compete with others, not only will I attract attention, I may not get what I want in the end. But the Zhang family is different. As the local tyrant of Shanyang Prefecture, your family should participate in the auction every year and buy a batch of secret boxes. So I want to ask the Zhang family to help me get what I want. After the auction, I will reward you handsomely." As he said this, Chu Xiu took out a large piece of purple gold and placed it on the table. There were 10 taels of purple gold, which was more than 100,000 taels of silver. This is the deposit. Asking the Zhang family to help with the auction was something that Chu Xiu suddenly thought of when he was fighting with the Zhang family. What he said to Zhang Songling just now was the truth. The auction of Linzhong Commandery was held every year, and the participants were all familiar faces. As it was an auction, everyone was competing with their wealth and personal connections. Chu Xiu was an outsider. He had a few 100,000 taels of silver, which was enough for him to showcase his skills at the auction. However, it was very likely that he would attract the attention of others, resulting in an accident. If it was purely a competition of wealth, Chu Xiu was naturally not afraid. He was prepared to spend all the silver he had, but he was afraid that something unexpected would happen during the auction. According to Chu Xiu's understanding, this kind of auction organized by dozens of forces in the pugilistic world was not so clean. If outsiders entered the auction, it was very likely that they would lose both their money and their lives. Zhang Songling looked at the purple gold that Chu Xiu had taken out with an unreadable expression on his face. Since this person dared to participate in the Linzhong Commandery auction, it meant that he had a certain background. After all, this was an auction that would be attended by dozens of factions in the entire Linzhong Commandery. The secret boxes that could be taken out for auction all had their origins, and the starting price would be in the thousands or even tens of thousands of silver taels. The most important thing was the purple gold that Chu Xiu had taken out. Purple gold was something that ordinary martial artists in the Jianghu would never be able to come into contact with. Only a few great powers would keep it in reserve. At such a young age, and with such wealth, he could even take out purple gold. Right now, Chu Xiu's identity was truly unfathomable in Zhang Songling's eyes. Chu Xiu said lightly, "Master Zhang, have you made up your mind? After this is done, I will pay you another 20 taels of purple gold, and all you need to do is to move your mouth during the auction." Zhang Songling thought for a while before saying, "Sure, I agree to this deal. However, may I ask for young master's name?" Chu Xiu pushed the purple gold in front of Zhang Songling and said with a smile, "No problem. I'm Chu Xiu, and I'm staying in the Pleasant Arrival Inn in the Mountain Sun Prefecture. After the auction begins, I'll come find you, Patriarch Zhang." After speaking, Chu Xiu turned and left. Chu Xiu did not wish to recall some of the things that happened in his previous life. He had already died once, and those memories were not very pleasant. However, now that he had taken out a fake name to fool others, Chu Xiu subconsciously said the name of his previous life. Zhang Songling thought about it. He had never heard of Lin Yi in the Linzhong Commandery before, so the other party should be a foreign cultivator. After Chu Xiu left, Zhang Baichen hurriedly asked, "Father, why are you working with him? Are you just going to let this matter go?" Zhang Songling frowned and said, "I haven't asked you yet. How did you incur enmity with this Lin Yi?" Zhang Baichen wanted to say something, but Zhang Songling said, "All right, you don't have to say it. I won't hear any truth from your mouth." As he spoke, Zhang Songling called Han Wei, who had finished treating his injuries, and asked him to tell him the details of the situation. After Han Wei finished, Zhang Songling immediately scolded Zhang Baichen angrily. What did I tell you back then? I told you to stay away from that woman, Lin Xinyu, but you turned a deaf ear to it. Can't you tell what that woman is thinking? She's just playing with you like a fool. She's a source of trouble. Today you offended a Xiantian realm Linyi because of her. In the future, if you offend a big shot that our Zhang family can't afford to offend because of her, it will be a calamity that will destroy our family. Zhang Baichen did not dare to retort after being scolded. He could only say in a low voice, "Then are we just going to let this matter go?" Zhang Songling snorted coldly and said, "If we don't let this matter go, what else can we do?" He came with a huge business deal worth hundreds of thousands of taels of silver. Do you think your face is more important than hundreds of thousands of taels of silver? However, I can't see through that Lin Ye's background. I will send someone to investigate. During this time, don't provoke that Lin Yi again. Just stay at home and reflect on your mistakes. After reprimanding Zhang Baichen, Zhang Songling turned to Han Wei and said, Han Wei, I've made things difficult for you this time. In a while, go to the pharmacy to get some medicine and pills for cultivation. I will approve a few more months for you to use. Han Wei smiled bitterly and cupped his hands, saying, Many thanks, Patriarch. That Lin Yi was a Xiantian realm martial artist. Now that he had a partnership with the Zhang family, his injuries could only be considered to have been in vain. Zhang Songling suddenly asked, You fought with that Lin Yi. Can you tell which sect he is from? Han Wei smiled bitterly and said, How can it be considered a fight? I was simply subdued by him in one move. That Lin Yi used a very terrifying grappling technique. As long as I'm caught, I can forget about escaping. Furthermore, I can sense that he hasn't used his full strength yet. There's a saber at his waist, which should be his main weapon. He's already so terrifying without using a weapon. When he draws his saber, I reckon I won't even be able to withstand a single strike. Zhang Songling rubbed his chin and said, Grappling technique? Very few people in the pugilistic world cultivate this kind of unpresentable martial art. The most famous ones are the Great Dragon Capturing Hand of the Great Radiance Temple, and the Heaven-Splitting Divine Claw of the Southwestern Heavenly Eagle sect. What exactly is this Lin Ye's background? After thinking about it, Zhang Songling said in a deep voice, It just so happens that you're injured now. You don't have to stay by second brother's side for this period of time. Help me run an errand and find the Wind-Sweeping Pavilions branch in Linzhong County. Spend a lot of money, and get them to help me investigate this Lin Ye's background. Han Wei asked in surprise, Patriarch, aren't you already prepared to make a deal with him? Why do you still want to investigate him? A strange expression appeared on Zhang Songling's face as he said, Making a deal with him doesn't mean that we're friends. I want to see this Lin Ye's background. This person's way of doing things is very strange. I won't feel at ease if I don't get to the bottom of this. Although the Wind-Sweeping Pavilion's information is expensive, if there's nothing wrong with this Lin Yi, we can still earn quite a lot of money from this deal. No matter how we look at it, we won't make a loss. Han Wei nodded. The Patriarch was still the one with deep foresight. If it were him, he wouldn't have thought so much. Right now, Chu Xiu didn't care about what the Zhang clan's people would do. To the current Chu Xiu, strength represented confidence. Even if he was alone, he had the confidence to not be afraid of the Zhang clan. That was why he dared to leave the purple gold with the Zhang clan as a deposit. If the Zhang clan wanted to swallow his deposit, Chu Xiu would let the Zhang clan understand that they had to be trustworthy. 5 days later, the Mountain Sun Prefecture's secret box auction officially began. Almost all the aristocratic families in the Linzhong County sent people to participate in the auction. On the day of the secret box auction, the Zhang clan didn't play any tricks. Instead, they directly sent people to invite Chu Xiu. When he arrived at the Zhang clan, Zhang Baichen and Zhang Songling were already waiting for Chu Xiu. Although many days had passed, Zhang Baichen's eyes were still filled with hatred when he saw Chu Xiu. It was because of this guy that he had embarrassed himself in public, and even ruined the reputation of his beloved woman. A few days ago, he had even gone to the Lin clan. In the end, he didn't even enter the Lin clan's door. However, he had just been warned by Zhang Songling not to cause trouble. Therefore, when he saw Chu Xiu coming over, He only snorted coldly and turned his head to the side. Chu Xiu didn't care. He couldn't be bothered to stoop to the level of an idiot. Zhang Songling said, "Mr. Lin, the secret box auction will start at noon. Let's go." Chu Xiu nodded and followed behind Zhang Songling. He also hid his aura. He looked like a young junior of the Zhang clan, not revealing anything. Chapter 51. The auction of the secret box was arranged in the largest restaurant in Shanyang Prefecture, 8 Treasures Restaurant, which was also the property of the Tao family, the largest family in Shanyang Prefecture. The Zhang family's influence could be ranked in the upper class in Shanyang Prefecture, but in the whole Linzhong Commandery, it was at most in the lower middle class. There were many experts in the 5th level of Qi-controlling realm, who came to participate in the auction. Chu Xiu followed the people of the Zhang family to take their seats. A short, fat, and stout man with a perpetual smile on his face walked onto the stage. He cupped his hands towards the surroundings and said, "I am Tao family's chief steward Tao Wang. This year's auction of the secret box will be hosted by my Tao family. The auction of the secret box in Linzhong Commandery has been going on for more than 10 years, so I won't say too much. The rules are the same as in previous years. The origin of the secret box is absolutely authentic. At the same time, the identity of the seller will be hidden. After the auction, the buyer will pay on the same day and the seller can also receive the money on the same day. Also, everyone is from the martial arts world of Linzhong Commandery. In order not to hurt the harmony between both parties, each party can bid for the secret box 10 times at most. After 10 times, if there is still competition, then the auction will be temporarily closed. Both parties can discuss the ownership of the secret box. If there is anything, we can talk it out. Alright, let's cut to the chase. My name is Tao Wang, and I wish everyone good luck today. The secret boxes you open all contain good stuff." Hearing Tao Wang briefly explain the rules of the auction, Chu Xiu secretly thought that it was a close call. Fortunately, he thought one step ahead and found the Zhang family as a shield. Otherwise, he might really be in some trouble this time. The auction of the secret box in Linzhong Commandery was obviously prepared for them. Although outsiders could participate, there was obviously a lot of inconvenience. The bidding was limited to 10 times at most. They were afraid that the two forces would become enemies because of one auction. After 10 times, everyone secretly discussed a compromise and discussed the ownership of the secret box. Everyone was happy if they each took a step back. However, if Chu Xiu were to participate in the auction by himself, and if someone were to compete with him, then after 10 bids, the other party would see that Chu Xiu was a stranger, and that he was alone. Who knew what kind of decision they would make? It was possible that they would threaten and rob him. At this moment, Tao Wang on the stage waved his hand, and someone immediately brought out a white jade box. Tao Wang pointed at the box and said, "This box was produced in Nanman. It was excavated from a mid-tier sect during the great calamity of the ancient times. Although the name of the sect was unknown, it was not a small one. Looking at the material of the box, it should be used to store pills and unrefined spirit medicines. Of course, it could also be empty, or the elixirs and elixirs inside have already decayed due to material problems. Everyone please be careful. The starting price is 15,000, and each increment must not be less than 1,000. As soon as he finished speaking, a group of people started bidding. After a few bids, the price had already doubled. The price of the box that was confirmed to contain elixirs was generally not too high, because there were too many uncertainties. Some pills could last forever after they were concocted, maintaining their medicinal potency. However, some pills had an age limit. It was possible that after you open the secret box, although it wasn't empty, it would be a pile of medicinal mud without any medicinal potency. Zhang Songling asked in a low voice, "Is young Master Lin interested in this thing?" Chu Xiu shook his head. Regarding the situation of this auction, he only knew that there were a few good things mentioned in the plot. As for whether there were other treasures, he really did not know. Therefore, before he saw his target, Chu Xiu would not make a move. Zhang Songling saw that Chu Xiu was not interested, so he bid twice, wanting to buy the secret box. For a small family like the Zhang family, the probability of opening a cultivation method from a secret box was somewhat low. Moreover, the price of a cultivation method secret box was at least 10 times that of an elixir, so the Zhang family could not afford to gamble. Therefore, every year, the Zhang family would spend more than 100,000 silver to bid for some elixir-type secret boxes. Although most of them were empty, there would always be one or two good things when they were lucky, and if they were lucky, they would be able to break even with just one. In the auction, several more secret boxes were sold, but Chu Xiu did not participate in any of them. Until now, Tao Wang asked someone to take out a palm-sized, blood-red secret box with strange patterns. He said, "The origin of this secret box is somewhat interesting. A few decades ago, in Eastern Qi, an ancient demonic sect's inheritance was born. One of the 7 sects and 8 schools, the Phaseless Demon Sect, wanted it, and one of the 5 great sword sects, the Sword King City, also sent experts to snatch it. The battle between the two sides was somewhat intense, and they even directly destroyed the ancient ruins. Some of the surrounding small sects and rogue cultivators picked up a bargain and obtained many secret boxes. Therefore, in these years, many secret boxes produced by that demonic sect have been sold, and some of them have opened up some good things. The cultivation method of that demonic sect should be related to blood, and it belongs to the extreme demonic path, so everyone should be careful. Moreover, the secret boxes that have been sold over the years have also been real and fake. Some people have directly used some trash secret boxes of unknown origin to pretend to be real, and they have deceived many people. At present, we have determined that this secret box is 70% real and 30% fake. Whether it is a cultivation method, an elixir, or some other treasure, we cannot tell. Everyone, please be careful. The base price is 200,000, and each bid is 10,000. After listening to this introduction, there were really only a few people present who bid, especially those big powers, who did not participate in the bidding. It was not because they thought that this secret box was fake, but because they had scruples about their reputation, and were not too interested in demonic things. Those who had come to participate in this secret box auction were the righteous sects of Linzhong Commandery. It was easy to be criticized if they won a secret box produced by a demonic sect, and if it was a cultivation method, even if it was powerful, they could only secretly cultivate it. And if it was an elixir, to a very large extent, it was also of little value. This was because the elixir produced by demonic sects was somewhat unsuitable for the righteous martial artists, and some would even cause a backlash. At this time, Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes and whispered to Zhang Songling, "Zhang family head, help me win this secret box." Zhang Songling nodded and directly raised his paddle. 250,000. When the people present saw that the Zhang family was interested, many people immediately gave up. It was not that they were afraid of the Zhang family, but it was somewhat not worth bidding for such a high-risk item of little value. But at this time, there was a bald strong man who had been bidding with Zhang Songling. Both sides had already competed for 400,000, directly reaching the peak of the 10 bidding. That bald strong man glared at Zhang Songling and coldly snorted. "Zhang family head, my Black Tiger gang is so far away from your Shanyang prefecture, and I have not offended you, right? Is it interesting to compete with me for this thing?" The other righteous martial artists did not want to bid for this secret box because it was a demonic item, but this strong man was from a gang, and did not have this worry. Zhang Songling cupped his hands and smiled bitterly. "Chow family head, I did not mean that. I really want this secret box. Everyone knows that my family's second son is really a bit of a good-for-nothing, and he can't be compared to his big brother. My Zhang family's inherited cultivation method focuses on accumulation, and it is really too slow for him to cultivate, so I want to try my luck and see if I can open a demonic cultivation method." After all, demonic cultivation methods focus on speed, and I do not need his foundation to be very stable. I only hope that he can advance to the next realm quickly. Zhang Songling's excuse was considered reasonable, and that Chow family head of the Black Tiger gang thought for a moment and said, "Since you want to help your son, I, old Chow, will not make things difficult for you. 100,000 silver, I will take the initiative to withdraw." This kind of thing was very common in auctions, and when one side retreated, the other side naturally had to pay some price. In all fairness, 100,000 silver was a bit too much, but in any case, the secret box was Chu Xiu's, and the silver was also his, so Zhang Songling naturally did not feel the heartache, and directly agreed to it. The secret box was successfully won by Zhang Songling. Chu Xiu frowned. The cost of this secret box was a bit beyond his imagination, and he actually spent 500,000 silver to win it, which directly used up all the silver he got from the Chu family. However, it was also fortunate that this time he cooperated with the Zhang family, or else if he came alone, that Chao family head of the Black Tiger gang might not give him face. And at that time, Chu Xiu might have to make a cameo appearance as a bandit, and try to rob and kill along the way. Chu Xiu did not participate in the following auction. Anyway, in the original plot, the most valuable things in this auction were already in his hands. And although there were a few other good things, Chu Xiu did not care. When the auction ended, Zhang Songling took the silver that Chu Xiu gave him, and after handing over the money, he said to Chu Xiu, "Young Master Lin, please wait patiently. After the seller receives the money and confirms the confirmation, the secret box will be sent to the Zhang family tonight." Chu Xiu said, "That's good. I will come to the Zhang family tonight to get the secret box, and I will also hand over the rest of the purple gold to you, Patriarch Zhang." After leaving the auction, Zhang Songling directly returned to the Zhang family, and at this time Han Wei, who had been away from Shanyang Prefecture for a few days, also happened to rush back. He moved closer to Zhang Songling and said in a low voice, "Patriarch, I got the news from Wind Sweeping Tower. There is really something wrong with Lin Ye's identity." Chapter 52. Zhang Songling's face immediately revealed a strange expression when he heard Han Wei said that there was a problem with Lin Ye's identity. To be honest, he investigated Lin Ye's identity just in case. He was afraid that Lin Ye was backed by those evil cultivators, and didn't have any evil intentions. But he didn't expect to actually find a problem. "Any news from Wind Sweeping Tower?" Han Wei said. "Wind Sweeping Tower's information is that there is no such person. There is no young Xiantian martial artist called Lin Yi in the Linzhong region. In the entire northern Yan region, there are young Xiantian martial artists called Lin Yi, but their appearances don't match. Therefore, Wind Sweeping Tower suspects that Lin Yi is using a fake name." But later on, Wind Sweeping Tower suddenly found out that something happened in the Wei region's Tongzhou Prefecture. It was because a small clan in the Tongzhou Prefecture, the Chu clan, was annihilated, but the younger brother of Azure Wave Sword Sect's eldest disciple, Falling Rain Sword Shenbai, was killed. Because of this incident, Azure Wave Sword Sect issued a wanted order for Chu Xiu in the entire Wei region. They even had a simple portrait. When I took a look, it was actually 80% similar to Lin Yi. But according to the wanted order, Chu Xiu is only at the blood condensation realm, but Lin Yi is at the Xiantian realm. Wind Sweeping Tower can't be 100% sure that both of them are the same person. Therefore, Wind Sweeping Tower only took 80% of the price. Zhang Songling sneered twice and said, 80% is already enough. I didn't expect that after this investigation, we actually found something good. Han Wei, who was at the side, asked in astonishment, "Clan head, are you trying to sell the information that Lin Yi is Chu Xiu to the Azure Water Sword Sect?" "But clan head, the Azure Water Sword Sect is a sect from the Wei Commandery, and you should know about the relationship between the Wei Commandery and our Northern Yan. Both parties aren't on good terms. Even if they know of the news, they wouldn't dare to make a big fuss and capture anyone." Zhang Songling sneered. "Who said I want to sell the information about Chu Xiu to Azure Wave Sword Sect? In Wind Sweeping Tower's information, the real point isn't that Chu Xiu is wanted by Azure Wave Sword Sect, but that he doesn't have any faction behind him. Instead, he is a stray dog that fled in panic. Since the Chu family had been destroyed, wouldn't Chu Xiu have all the Chu family's assets and valuables with him? Squeezing out these things is much more worthwhile than selling the information to the Azure Water Sword Sect." Han Wei said hesitantly, "Patriarch, are you going to make a move on Chu Xiu? Even though according to the intel he is only at the initial Xiantian realm, but for the Azure Water Sword Sect to put a bounty on his head, he definitely isn't a simple character." Zhang Songling said coolly, "No matter how extraordinary he is, he's just one person. My Zhang family has so many people. Could it be that we can't do anything to him? However, there was nothing wrong with being careful. If Chu Xiao is willing to obediently hand over the Chu clan's treasures, then both parties will naturally be happy. But if Chu Xiao doesn't know what's good for him, and insists on making a move, then get them to inform the Tao clan and the other major factions of the Mountain Sun Prefecture to come after hearing the commotion. There's no need to tell them the details, just tell them that there are benefits. Get them to help me surround this Chu Xiao. At most, we will just split the profits with them. Han Wei nodded. This was also the rule of the Mountain Sun Prefecture. There was competition between the factions, but there was also cooperation. If one person couldn't eat it alone, then they would get others to eat it together. After nightfall, the auction house had already sent the secret box that Chu Xiao had bid for to the Zhang residence. Zhang Baichen said from the side, "Father, didn't Lin Yi know Chu Xiao say that he has insider information? Let's open it and see what exactly is inside this secret box." Zhang Songling nodded. He was also rather curious, but just as he was about to open it to see what exactly was inside, a servant suddenly reported that Chu Xiao had come to visit. A gloomy smile appeared on Zhang Songling's face as he placed the secret box on the table. After a while, Chu Xiao was brought in by a servant of the Zhang clan. However, the moment he entered, Chu Xiao felt that the atmosphere was a little off. Previously, Zhang Songling's attitude towards Chu Xiao was considered polite. Both of them were innate stage cultivators. At the very least, Zhang Songling didn't treat Chu Xiao as a junior and put on an arrogant attitude. However, when he saw Chu Xiao enter, Zhang Songling remained seated in his chair. He didn't say a word or even move. Meanwhile, Zhang Baichen, who was beside him, looked at Chu Xiao with a playful look on his face. He actually felt like he had gotten his revenge. A strange look appeared in Chu Xiao's eyes as he said indifferently, "Let's exchange the goods. Zhang clan head, we can be considered to have a pleasant cooperation this time." As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Xiao saw the scarlet box on the table and immediately reached out to take it. But right at this moment, Zhang Songling was one step ahead and kept the secret box in his arms. This caused Chu Xiao's expression to instantly turn cold. "Zhang clan head, what is the meaning of this?" Zhang Songling replied indifferently, "Nothing much. I just want to have a chat with young Master Lin." "Oh, chat about what?" A trace of coldness flashed in Chu Xiao's eyes. Zhang Songling sat up straight and sneered. "Of course it is to chat about your identity. Lin Yi Chu Xiao." "Hehe, young Master Chu, if I didn't investigate, I really wouldn't know that you actually have such a background. How does it feel to be wanted by one of the 7 sects and 8 factions, the Azure Water Sword sect?" Hearing Zhang Songling's words, Chu Xiao frowned, but his hand was already on the red sleeve blade. After arriving at the Linzhong region, he didn't hear any news from the Azure Water Sword sect. He subconsciously thought that his arrangements weren't discovered, but from the looks of it, he must have left a flaw in his plan in a hurry and was seen through. Chu Xiao replied indifferently, "Zhang clan head is preparing to report me to the Azure Water Sword sect? But the Azure Water Sword sect only put me on the wanted list in Wei region. Can they send people to Northern Yen to capture me? The one I killed was the Azure Water Sword sect's eldest disciple, Shenbai's younger brother, not Shenbai himself." Zhang Songling sneered. "The Azure Water Sword sect cannot capture you with great fanfare. But if I were to capture you and send you to the Azure Water Sword sect, as one of the 7 sects and 8 schools, how much benefits do you think the Azure Water Sword sect will give me?" As soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Songling clapped his hands. Immediately, dozens of Zhang clan's elite martial artists surrounded the entrance. Among them, there were 5 blood condensation realm martial artists, and the rest were the Zhang clan's elites. Chu Xiao's eyes flashed with a hint of coldness. "Zhang clan head is preparing to use force? Previously, I was very sincere in wanting to cooperate with Zhang clan head." Zhang Songling shook his head. "Not at all. I also don't want to make a move. I just want young Master Chu to understand your current situation. The Azure Water Sword sect is a large sect in Wei region. If there is no need, my Zhang clan doesn't want to deal with the Azure Water Sword sect for some petty benefits. So young Master Chu, If you are willing to take out some treasures in exchange for your life, I can let you go. I will even take the initiative to cover up the news in the Mountain Sun region." Speaking up to here, Zhang Songling's eyes revealed a trace of greed. "The Chu clan was exterminated, and the only one left alive is you. Most of the Chu clan's wealth should be in your hands, right? Hand them over. Wealth is just a worldly possession. Life is your own." Actually, from the start, Zhang Songling never thought of selling the news of Chu Xiu to the Azure Water Sword sect. He didn't even think of capturing Chu Xiu and handing him over to the Azure Water Sword sect. The reason was simple. The Azure Water Sword sect only issued a warrant for Chu Xiu. They didn't mention if anyone could offer up information on Chu Xiu or capture Chu Xiu. The Azure Water Sword sect was Wei region's #1 sect. To the entire Wei region's martial arts community, everyone had to give face to the Azure Water Sword sect. Therefore, when the Azure Water Sword sect issued a warrant, there was no need for rewards. Some sects would even be secretly delighted to be able to form a relationship with the Azure Water Sword sect. The Zhang clan was a small faction in the northern Yan region. Even if they took the initiative to hand over information on Chu Xiu or Chu Xiu himself to the Azure Water Sword sect, they probably wouldn't get anything good. At most, they would just get Shen Bai to express his gratitude. And if the Zhang clan didn't know what was good for them and demanded an exorbitant price from the Azure Water Sword sect, then they would die a miserable death. Therefore, after knowing the true identity of this Chu Xiu, Zhang Songling had already made up his mind. He was going to squeeze out all the Chu clan's wealth and treasures from Chu Xiu. The Chu clan had been exterminated, and Chu Xiu was the only one left alive. All of the Chu clan's wealth, cultivation resources, and other treasures were definitely on Chu Xiu's body. Adding all of these together, it was definitely a huge sum of money for the Zhang clan. But Zhang Songling didn't know that at that time, Chu Xiu was already seriously injured and had one of his arms crippled. Furthermore, because of Shen Mo, he died in the Chu clan. How would he dare to stay in the Chu clan for long? Chu Xiu didn't have the time to search for the Chu clan's wealth and resources. Only the silvers on him were found in Chu Zongguang's house. Chu Xiu's eyes flashed with a cold light. Zhang clan head has such a big appetite. Aren't you afraid of overexerting yourself? Your ability to rob others is even stronger than bandits. Zhang Songling took out an ancient bronze sword with pine patterns. This was a weapon produced in the land of Ba and Shu. It was a 4th revolution sword forged by a sword master from Ba and Shu. It was given to him by his eldest son, Zhang Baitao, as a gift for his 50th birthday. Zhang Songling pointed the sword at Chu Xiu and spoke indifferently. An innocent man will get into trouble because of his wealth. If you are a Xiantian martial artist with a strong background, then my Zhang clan wouldn't dare to offend you. But if you are an ordinary rogue Xiantian martial artist with nothing good on you, then my Zhang clan wouldn't be bothered to offend you. There is no benefit in fighting to the death. But you, Chu Xiu, are currently wealthy and are just a stray dog wanted by the Azure Water Sword sect. If we don't make a move on you, then who should we make a move on you? When the saber was unsheathed, it drank blood and killed people. The crimson color in Chu Xiu's hands had evolved into a strong killing intent. The saber momentum was bleak and strange. The crimson blade tore through everything, and the Southern Dipper sword momentum was shattered. Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes, but the crimson killing intent in his eyes was about to overflow. With the fusion of the memories of 2 lives, Chu Xiu had a tyrannical factor in his bones. Chu Xiu had already discovered this when he was in Tongzhou Prefecture. However, Chu Xiu had never chosen to suppress this. Instead, he allowed it to grow. This caused Chu Xiu's killing intent to surge to an abnormally strong level during the battle. Of course, Chu Xiu had a limit in his heart. He would not be overwhelmed by the killing intent. On the contrary, this strong killing intent would also appropriately enhance Chu Xiu's own strength. At this moment, facing Zhang Songling, Chu Xiu only had one feeling. He could not withstand a single blow. He did not know whether it was because he was too strong now, or because Zhang Songling was used to living like a prince and was too weak. In any case, Chu Xiu did not feel the slightest pressure from Zhang Songling. He was much weaker than Shen Mo, who had died in Chu Xiu's hands. At this moment, Zhang Songling had no time to be shocked. He hurriedly shouted, "Attack together!" There was indeed a certain gap between the Xiantian realm and the blood condensation realm, but this gap was not to the extent of being like heaven and earth. At least, the attack of the blood condensation realm could still cause a certain amount of damage to the Xiantian realm. Hearing Zhang Songling's words, the Zhang family's warriors outside finally reacted. They hurriedly rushed into the hall and attacked Chu Xiu together with their weapons in hand. Their movements were quite coordinated. Chu Xiu's figure moved and directly rushed into the crowd. The red sleeve blade in his hand swallowed and spat out a beautiful crimson light. As the blade fell like a pool of autumn water, a head flew into the sky. In an instant, blood splattered everywhere. A blood condensation realm warrior was directly beheaded by Chu Xiu's blade. The more blood the blade was dyed, the more intense the crimson color on the blade became. Chu Xiu's figure wandered among the Zhang family's warriors. In the dusk drizzle, it was as if he was taking a leisurely stroll. But as long as his blade slashed across, it was bound to take a life, causing blood to bloom. In a short while, Chu Xiu had consecutively killed more than 10 people. The entire hall was completely dyed red with blood. Zhang Songling's eyes revealed a ruthless look. He could not let Chu Xiu continue killing like this. Otherwise, the Zhang family's vitality would definitely be greatly damaged. Zhang Songling's Southern Dipper sword was good at defending and not good at attacking. Just like his character, he was more willing to stand his ground under other people's attacks until the other party lost their temper. In Shanyang Prefecture, Zhang Songling had always done this, until he met Chu Xiu, an existence that he could not even block. Since he could not block, then he could only attack. Although Zhang Songling was not good at attacking, it was impossible for him to only practice such a sword technique. While Chu Xiu was massacring the members of the Zhang family, Zhang Songling immediately took the initiative to attack. The pine vein ancient sword in his hand emitted an extremely resplendent sharp light. Countless sword shadows rained down. This was not the sword light of a level 5 Imperial Qi expert, but the shadows created by the sword being too fast. Hainan Chaotic Wind Splitting Sword Technique. The Chaotic Wind Splitting Sword Technique was created by a sword sect that had already been destroyed, Hainan Sword Sect, so it was also known as the Hainan Chaotic Wind Splitting Sword Technique. It was quite widespread in Jianghu, but its grade was not low. It was at the 3rd rank. The sword shadows fell like a heavy downpour. Although it looked very messy and uneven, the essence of the Chaotic Wind Splitting Sword Technique lay in the word messy, making people unable to figure out the sword momentum within it. In the depths of the sword shadows, Chu Xiu's blade momentum changed. In the midst of the chaotic sword momentum, he slashed horizontally, aiming at Zhang Songling's chest. The sword shadows stopped, and Zhang Songling's Chaotic Wind Splitting Sword Technique could not mess up Chu Xiu. Facing this terrifying blade, he could only put away his sword to defend, displaying the Southern Dipper sword momentum. However, he was sent flying by Chu Xiu's blade. The powerful force even caused his perlicue to bleed, and the hand holding the sword was trembling. However, at this moment Han Wei, who had been hiding in the crowd and had not made a move, took this opportunity to form a claw with his left hand. Like a ferocious tiger descending the mountain, he launched a sneak attack on Chu Xiu's back with a sharp force. Chu Xiu did not even turn his head. With a movement of his left hand, he displayed the great sacrificial grappling hand. His 5 fingers were like 5 steel nails, directly pressing down on Han Wei's palm and squeezing along his arm. Only the crisp sound of bones cracking could be heard, along with Han Wei's miserable howl. His entire arm was crushed by Chu Xiu's great sacrificial grappling hand. "I gave you a chance, but unfortunately, you did not cherish it." As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Xiu's hand gently moved on Han Wei's head, and a terrifying thing happened. Han Wei's head was like a ball, spinning in a big circle before flying out. In an instant, blood gushed out like a fountain. After being held in the great sacrificial grappling hand, one's body no longer belonged to oneself. This scene was incomparably terrifying, and everyone present was stunned. The Zhang family's hangers-on and servants could be considered to be somewhat knowledgeable. Killing someone was nothing strange, but a scene as horrifying as Chu Xiu, who forcibly plucked off a person's head with a single move of his hand, had already scared them silly. The first to lose control was none other than Zhang Baichen. Zhang Baichen was a good-for-nothing playboy. In the Zhang family, he was a little too well protected. The Zhang family was supported by Zhang Songling, the family head. Outside, his elder brother, Zhang Baitao, was also supporting the facade. He himself was also the kind of person with no great ambitions. He had never thought of competing with his elder brother for the position of the family head. Therefore, the relationship between the two brothers could be considered harmonious. Since young, when had he ever seen such a cruel scene? Therefore, at this moment, Zhang Baichen completely broke down and ran out as if he had lost his mind. Seeing this scene, Zhang Songling's expression suddenly changed. He hurriedly shouted, "Don't go! Come back!" A sneer appeared at the corner of Chu Xiu's mouth. He took a step forward, and the red-sleeved blade in his hand danced. He took off the heads of two Zhang family warriors who were blocking in front of him, and directly grabbed Zhang Baichen in his hand. Feeling the cold blade swaying in front of him, Zhang Baichen's body trembled. Zhang Songling looked at Chu Xiu with a trace of regret in his eyes. He did not regret making a move on Chu Xiu, but he regretted that he did not consider it thoroughly. He felt that he had considered the matter of making a move on Chu Xiu. Chu Xiu had no background, and was just a stray dog being hunted. It was not a big deal to make a move on him. However, he had missed one point, and that was Chu Xiu's strength. He had never expected that even though they were all at the innate realm, he and the warriors of the Zhang clan would not be able to take down Chu Xiu. Now Chu Xiu had even captured his own son. Chapter 54. Zhang Songling wasn't Chu Zongguang. He wouldn't disregard his own son's life for a treasure. Looking at Chu Xiu, Zhang Songling put down his sword and spoke in a low voice. "Chu Xiu, you win this time. I should have thought of it. To be wanted by the Azure Water Sword sect, you must have done a lot of things. I will give you the secret box, and I will pay for the money to buy the secret box. Let my son go, and I won't tell anyone about what happened today." Chu Xiu shook his head and spoke indifferently. "Zhang clan head, you still don't understand. The most important thing to do is to know one's own limits. Previously, you didn't know your limits and tried to kill me. Now you are still begging me without knowing your limits. What I hate the most is when someone tries to snatch my things. Even though you only tried to snatch something that didn't exist, but you still made a move. There is no medicine for regret in this world. Since you have decided to make a move, there is no turning back. Just like now, I have killed so many of your Zhang clan's members. You might be admitting defeat, but your heart must be very unwilling, right? So today, I will ask all of you to die." With a casual statement, the blade in Chu Xiu's hand casually slid across Zhang Baichen's neck and threw him to the side like a piece of trash. There were some things that you either didn't do, or you had to do it to the extreme. This wasn't a habit of Chu Xiu's in his previous life, but a principle that he comprehended in this life. From top to bottom, this Zhang clan wasn't any good people, and Chu Xiu already knew it. Hence, he had prepared for both scenarios. If the other party was honest, then he wouldn't kill them out of boredom. But if the other party wasn't honest, then Chu Xiu didn't mind earning back the money he spent in the auction. At this moment, when Zhang Songling saw that Chu Xiu had killed his son, his eyes instantly turned scarlet red. He roared and brandished his sword at Chu Xiu. "Chu Xiu, I'll kill you." The chaotic cloak of wind swordsmanship was displayed, and the chaotic sword momentum contained an incomparably violent killing intent. However, it was completely broken by Chu Xiu's blade. The crimson red sleeve blade swept away the pine pattern ancient sword. The drizzle was crimson red, and the killing intent fell. Zhang Songling dodged in a panic, but he was still slashed below his ribs, and blood instantly flowed out. "You feel angry that you're sending off your son? Unfortunately, there's no medicine for regret in this world." Chu Xiu's figure moved directly, and the blade fell, forcing Zhang Songling to dodge repeatedly. However, at this moment, Chu Xiu only used his left hand to display the great sacrificial grappling hand. A corner of Chu Xiu's clothes was caught in his hand, and in an instant, Zhang Songling's entire left arm was caught by Chu Xiu. With a forceful pull, Zhang Songling's entire arm was forcibly torn off by Chu Xiu. Just when Zhang Songling was about to cry out in pain, a crimson blade light appeared in front of him, and in an instant his head fell to the ground. Blood flowed down from the red sleeve blade, but not a single drop of blood stained the blade. Sure enough, high-grade goods were different. A fifth revolution precious weapon was much more useful than ordinary weapons. However, Chu Xiu shook his head. To be honest, Zhang Songling's strength was too weak. It was true that Zhang Songling was an innate expert, but Chu Xiu was sure that Zhang Songling had not been in a life-and-death battle for several years. His cultivation did not deteriorate, but his combat strength had deteriorated beyond recognition. On the other hand, Chu Xiu, ever since he transmigrated, almost every battle was a life-and-death battle. If he lost, he would either be killed or crippled. Therefore, when fighting, Chu Xiu's nerves were stretched taut, and he did not dare to relax in the slightest. At this time, the Zhang clan's servants had already fled. In fact, when Chu Xiu was killing crazily, the Zhang clan had already fled. This situation was very normal for a small aristocratic family like the Zhang clan, which did not have a strong foundation. Most of their followers and servants were recruited with money, and their loyalty could only be said to be average. If it were a large aristocratic family with hundreds of years of foundation, the direct and side branches would be clearly separated. Even the servants would be loyal descendants of the main family for several generations. Basically, this situation would not occur. Chu Xiu found the secret box on Zhang Songling's corpse. Inside it was the piece of purple gold that he had given to Zhang Songling. However, it was now back in Chu Xiu's hands. No matter what, the Zhang clan was considered a famous force in the Shanyang prefecture. The Zhang clan's foundation was definitely deeper than the Chu clan's. Killing, robbing, and arson, Chu Xiu did not mind playing the role of a bandit when needed. However, before he could do anything, he heard a commotion coming from outside. Chu Xiu frowned. There were actually quite a number of people with powerful auras. Dozens of warriors stepped into the Zhang clan's courtyard. They were all the leaders of the other forces in the Shanyang prefecture, and they were called over by the Zhang clan. Chu Xiu did not know that Zhang Songling had actually called the other forces in the Shanyang prefecture to prevent him from escaping. He thought that he had made too much noise and attracted the people here. As soon as those people stepped into the Zhang clan's courtyard, they were shocked to see the scene full of corpses. Just now, the Zhang clan servants told them that Zhang Songling was going to deal with someone, and asked them to help surround him. When the time came, they would help them get a share of the loot. This kind of thing was very common in the Shanyang prefecture, and it could be regarded as the tacit rule of the Shanyang prefecture. They were not afraid that Zhang Songling would deceive them, so when they received the news, they immediately rushed over. However, in such a short time, so many people from the Zhang clan had died. Everyone present looked at each other. They could not see the origin of this person, but the fact that so many people from the Zhang clan had died in his hands was enough to prove that this young man was not simple. No matter what the benefits that Zhang Songling had mentioned were, the fact that he had died here was enough to prove that the benefits were not easy to obtain. However, it was not the right thing to let this person go like this. After looking at each other, among these people, a warrior in his 40s, holding a Zamadeo, stood out and shouted, "How dare you? How dare you kill people in my Shanyang prefecture? Do you really think that there is no one in the Shanyang prefecture who can stop you?" Chu Xiu squinted his eyes and said, "You are." The warrior said in a deep voice, "Shanyang prefecture Tao family, mountain-splitting blade Tao Zhongwang." Chu Xiu glanced at the corpses of Zhang Songling and the others, and said lightly, "My grudge with the Zhang clan is purely personal, and I have no intention of becoming enemies with the Shanyang prefecture." Tao Zhongwang shook his head and said, "But no matter what, the Zhang clan is also a member of the Shanyang prefecture. Your Excellency has killed people, and just left without leaving any explanation. It is not justifiable no matter where you put it." Chu Xiu glanced at the people from the other families who did not move, and Tao Zhongwang who stood out alone. Chu Xiu seemed to understand something. He took a step forward and slashed out with the red sleeve blade in his hand. The crimson blade light was as bright as lightning, and with a poignant killing intent, It suddenly made Tao Zhongwang's hair stand on end. Tao Zhongwang used a blade, and he had met many sabermen, but it was the first time that he saw such a magnificent blade. And in that magnificence, there was endless killing intent. Tao Zhongwang raised the Zamadeo in his hand, and his momentum was unparalleled. On one side was the magnificent red sleeve blade, and on the other side was the powerful and heavy Zamadeo. Between the two, one focused on sharpness and lightness, and the other focused on strength and pressure. The two blades collided, and suddenly there was a loud clang. Chu Xiu took 3 steps back, and the red sleeve blade was not damaged at all. Tao Zhongwang also took 3 steps back, but there was a rice grain-sized gap on his Zamadeo. Chu Xiu did not continue to attack, but directly sheathed the blade, and said lightly, "Is this enough explanation?" Tao Zhongwang looked at Chu Xiu, and although he tried to keep calm, his eyes could not hide the horror. The two of them clashed, and although it seemed to be a draw, it must be known that Chu Xiu was using an extremely sharp long saber, while he was using the heavy and powerful Zamadeo. Chu Xiu used his weakness to attack his strength, but both sides were evenly matched. If it was a life-and-death battle, it could be imagined what it would be like. He really could not figure out how Chu Xiu, at such a young age, accumulated such a strong internal force, and such a strong foundation of strength. Even he was shocked. With a sigh, Tao Zhongwang held his blade and stepped aside, and with his action, the other aristocratic families did the same, and directly stepped aside, allowing Chu Xiu to leave. Just now, the others did not move, and only Tao Zhongwang stood out. In fact, there was only one purpose, and that was to test Chu Xiu. If Chu Xiu's strength was not as strong as they thought, then fine, they could directly let Chu Xiu stay. But now, Chu Xiu's strength was unfathomable, and even Tao Zhongwang, who was the strongest among them, did not have the confidence to take him down. In that case, let the matter be. Although they were confident that they could take down the opponent together, who could guarantee that they could come out unscathed? And there was another reason. They did not know what benefits this person in front of them had, but other benefits were right in front of them. The Zhang family was now all dead. The Zhang family was originally built by Zhang Songling from scratch. The so-called direct descendants were only Zhang Songling and his 2 sons, and the others were servants and distant relatives. The Zhang family was such a big business. How could the people of Shanyang Prefecture watch it fall into the hands of the Zhang family's distant relatives? Of course, it should be divided among them. Chapter 55. After the news of the Zhang family being destroyed spread in Shanyang Prefecture, there was not much of a stir. Compared to a small place like Wei County, the competition in the martial arts world of the Northern Yan Kingdom was far more intense. It was normal for families to be destroyed and to seek revenge. Back then, the Zhang family was able to rise in the Shanyang Prefecture by stepping on the corpses of others. People did not know much about the Zhang family being destroyed. They only knew from some of the surviving servants of the Zhang family that the other party was called Chu Xiu and that he had gotten in touch with Zhang Baichen and Lin Xinyu. When they thought up to there, everyone couldn't help but shake their heads in their hearts. They thought to themselves that this woman was truly a femme fatale. If it wasn't for this matter, Chu Xiu would definitely not have any contact with the Zhang clan. At this time, after Chu Xiu left Shanyang Prefecture, he prepared to go to the vicinity of Luyang Mountain and wait for the ruins to open. The incident at Shanyang Prefecture was just a small interlude to him, so Chu Xiu did not pay much attention to it. After leaving Shanyang Prefecture, Chu Xiu opened the secret box. Inside was a cultivation method. It was the secret cultivation method of the ancient demonic sect, the Blood River sect, piercing sun and moon. At the auction, the auctioneer of the Tao family said that the secret box was 70% real and 30% fake. In fact, he was talking about the origin of the secret box. 70% of it was left behind by the Blood River sect. As for what was inside, no one could be sure. Cultivation methods and martial skills had always been more expensive than elixirs and the like. This was common sense. If this 70% probability could be confirmed to be a cultivation method, then this secret box wouldn't be auctioned at all. Even if it was auctioned, it wouldn't be calculated by silver, but by gold or purple gold. The piercing sun and moon was a very strange inner cultivation method of the Blood River sect. It originated from the demonic path, but it was not completely demonic. The piercing sun and moon originated from the saying, "Heaven and earth are heartless and treat all things as straw dogs." All life in the world was death. As for the various aspects of death, regardless of whether it was natural or not, it was all in the word kill. When people kill people, it is called kill. When the heavens punish people, it is called evil. The piercing sun and moon could condense one's own killing intent and explode with boundless power. A higher level could even condense the piercing sun and moon with extraordinary power. One's own killing intent and the baleful energy between heaven and earth could be used as the power of connecting the sun and moon. The righteous path's martial artists could also condense their own righteous energy. Naturally, it could also be used as connecting the sun and moon. That was why later generations would evaluate this cultivation method as very mystical. It could be used to cultivate the demonic path, but also the righteous path. The grade of piercing sun and moon was fourth revolution. In northern Yen, Chu Xiu knew that there were quite a few cultivation methods that were suitable for him to practice now and had not fallen into the hands of experts. There were even fifth revolution and even sixth revolution cultivation methods. He could try to seize them, but with his current strength, the probability of success was a little small, not more than 50%. The reason why Chu Xiu chose to auction the piercing sun and moon in Shanyang Prefecture was not only that this cultivation method was easy to get and was on the way, but also that the piercing sun and moon could be the icing on the cake for Chu Xiu. In fact, this cultivation method was not too outstanding in the original plot. It could only be said to be below the middle level. Even its effect was much weaker than that of the Xiantian skill, which could help the cultivators salvage their foundation. But for the current Chu Xiu, this cultivation method was very useful. The Xiantian skill was indeed very powerful in salvaging the foundation. Otherwise, Chu Xiu could not have reached the innate realm. But in the battle, the characteristic of the Xiantian skill was that the internal force was strong. There were not many skills to use it, and the explosive power was not enough. After cultivating the lunisolar piercing spirit, Chu Xiu would be able to make use of its characteristics to increase his explosive power. It wouldn't be considered a timely help, but at the very least, it would be the icing on the cake. It would allow Chu Xiu to have fewer shortcomings. After getting this cultivation method, Chu Xiu went to Liang Mountain while practicing it. At this time, in the direction of Shanyang Prefecture, on a handsome white horse, a handsome warrior in a blue robe, with a quaint bronze sword on his back, rode slowly into the city. This man was Zhang Baitao, the eldest son of the Zhang family. In his early years, he joined the Beishan sword sect in the land of Beishan, and Shu in the western Chu kingdom. He spent most of his time practicing in the Beishan sword sect, and did not return home once in a few years. After all, the land of Beishan and Shu was a little far from the northern Yan. With his speed, it would take him 2 or 3 months to go back and forth, which delayed his practice too much. Looking at the familiar streets in Shanyang Prefecture, Zhang Baitao could not help but smile. He had not seen his father and brother for several years. This time he came back, he prepared a lot of gifts for them. His father's martial talent was not very good, and it was estimated that he would stop at the primordial realm in his life. So he specially used the merits in the sect to exchange some life-prolonging elixirs for his father. As for his brother, he also knew that his brother was not a material for martial arts, and his character was a little naughty. But everything in Jianghu was still based on strength. So this time, Zhang Baitao specially asked his master to promise him to give his brother the internal force that the Beishan sword sect gave to the outer sect disciples to practice, so that his brother could practice faster. In the past, Zhang Songling built the Zhang family from scratch. Different from the intrigues of other aristocratic families, the atmosphere of the Zhang family was very good. In the eyes of outsiders, Zhang Songling was a greedy old fox, but in Zhang Baitao's heart, he was a good father who worked his heart out for the family. For the sake of his own cultivation, he exchanged the money that he had painstakingly calculated into cultivation resources for him, just so that he could become a talent. His younger brother, Zhang Baichen, was naughty, but when he was young he left cultivation resources to his older brother. He did not compete or become strong. This made Zhang Baitao very touched, and he always took good care of his younger brother. Zhang Baitao even prepared to tell his father that he did not want the Zhang family, and would leave it to his younger brother. As long as he stayed in the Ba Mountain Sword sect, the Zhang family would be fine. But at this time, a young master walked out of the restaurant. Seeing this person, Zhang Baitao got off his horse and greeted, "Brother Tao, I haven't seen you for many years. Are you well?" The young master stilled when he saw Zhang Baitao, as though he was frightened. He stammered in greeting, "So it is Brother Zhang. Aren't you cultivating in the Ba Mountain Sword sect? Why have you come back?" Zhang Baitao was puzzled by this person's behavior. He was Tao Yi, the young master of the Tao family of the Mountain Sun Prefecture. They were acquainted since childhood. Why did he look so strange when he saw Zhang Baitao? "I have not returned home for many years. I miss my father and younger brother. Coincidentally, my seclusion in the Ba Mountain Sword sect has reached a bottleneck, so I told my master that I would go out for a walk and relax. I am preparing to return home." Tao Yi gave an unnatural smile and said, "In that case, Brother Zhang, hurry home. I will not disturb you." As he spoke, Tao Yi ran away as though his feet were smeared with oil. Seeing Tao Yi's actions, Zhang Baitao felt even more wrong. The two were acquaintances, and Tao Yi was not an idiot. He should have said some polite words, right? He had left the Mountain Sun Prefecture for so many years. Now that he had returned, the other should at least say something to welcome him. Why did he run away so quickly? Thinking of this, Zhang Baitao felt a faint haze in his heart. He immediately mounted his horse and rode towards the Zhang family. But Tao Yi was faster than Zhang Baitao. He had to tell Tao Zongwang and the other major forces of the Mountain Sun Prefecture as soon as possible. The death of Zhang Songling and his son naturally had nothing to do with them. But the problem was that during this period of time, several major forces were still slowly digesting and distributing the Zhang family's property. Now that the son of the Zhang family had returned and saw their ugly table manners, how could Zhang Baitao not be angry? If Zhang Baitao was an ordinary person, it would be fine. But Zhang Baitao was a Khanate warrior, and he was an inner sect disciple of the Ba Mountain Sword sect. Although the Ba Mountain Sword sect was far away in Sichuan, it was still one of the 7 sects and 8 schools. If these small forces bullied the disciples of the Ba Mountain Sword sect, they would not be able to bear it if they sent an expert to seek justice. At first, they thought that Zhang Baitao had not returned to the northern Yan for so many years, and no one knew when he would come back again. So they were relieved to swallow the Zhang family's property. Anyway, after a long time, who would remember what happened in the past? But who would have thought that Zhang Baitao would return to the northern Yan at this time? At this time, Zhang Baitao rode his horse to the Zhang family. The usually lively Zhang family was now tightly shut. When Zhang Baitao pushed the door open, what appeared in front of him was unexpectedly white silk flower knots hung all over the courtyard. Several loyal collateral relatives of the Zhang family were wearing mourning clothes, and had set up a mourning hall in the courtyard. They were adding paper money into the brazier. Seeing this, Zhang Baitao's body suddenly swayed. The collateral family members were also shocked by Zhang Baitao. When they came to themselves, they hurriedly cried, "Young master, you're finally back." Chapter 56. Zhang Baitao didn't dare to think too much about it. He pulled a clansman to his feet and shouted with bloodshot eyes, "What the hell is going on?" The clansman was shocked by Zhang Baitao's reaction. He said incoherently, "Master and second young master are both dead. Many people died in that battle. The blood condensation realm hangerons are all dead, and many of the Zhang family's elites are also dead." Hearing this, Zhang Baitao's eyes showed a look of disbelief. He shouted, "How could father and brother die? What the hell is going on? Who did it?" Before the clansman could say anything, Tao Zongwang and the other big forces of Shanyang Prefecture walked in. After knowing that Zhang Baitao was back, they didn't dare to go too far. They immediately returned all the properties of the Zhang family. However, the money and other financial assets had been divided among them. Even if they returned them now, they wouldn't be able to calculate the total amount. So they could only give up for the time being. Zhang Baitao suddenly turned around and grabbed the ancient bronze sword on his back. He said coldly with his bloodshot eyes, "Everyone, I want an explanation. What the hell happened to the Zhang family?" In Zhang Baitao's view, with the Zhang family's strength in Shanyang Prefecture, there were only a few families that could destroy the Zhang family. Tao Zongwang smiled bitterly. "Young Master Zhang, please calm down. The destruction of the Zhang family really had nothing to do with us." Tao Zongwang told Zhang Baitao everything. Of course, he didn't mention that they divided the properties of the Zhang family. Tao Zongwang spread his hands and revealed a helpless expression. "Young Master Zhang, the Zhang family is also a member of my Shanyang Prefecture. We also wanted to keep the Zhang family from being exterminated, but Chu Xiu was able to kill your father. I also exchanged blows with him. He was indeed very strong, so we didn't dare to act blindly without thinking, so in the end, we could only let him go." Chu Xiu. Zhang Baitao gnashed his teeth and spat out these two words. Everyone on the scene could even hear Zhang Baitao's teeth chattering. It was not hard to imagine how much he hated Chu Xiu now. Just at this moment, Zhang Baitao actually slashed out with his sword. The tip of the sword was like a bolt of lightning, carrying with it the might of a thunderbolt as it chopped towards a middle-aged cultivator beside Tao Zongwang. Ba Mountain Night Rain, Purple Lightning Thunder. The Ba Mountain Sword Sect's 8-character sword scripture had evolved into 8 powerful sword techniques. Right now, the Purple Lightning Azure Light sword that Zhang Baitao was using was as fast as lightning and had reached initial success. No one expected that Zhang Baitao would suddenly make a move. Only Tao Zongwang hurriedly raised the Zamadeo in his hand and blocked in front of Zhang Baitao with the heavy long blade. However, Tao Zongwang's hands were directly numbed by the sword, and his face revealed a shocked expression. The legends said that when the Ba Mountain Sword Sect's Purple Lightning Azure Light sword was cultivated to the extreme, it could summon the power of purple lightning on a rainy night. He had not believed it before, but now he did. "Master Zhang, I just said that the Zhang family's matter has nothing to do with us. Do you want to take your anger out on the entire Mountain Sun Prefecture?" Tao Zongwang said unkindly. No matter how strong the Ba Mountain Sword Sect was, it was only in West Chu. This was northern Yan. Zhang Baitao pointed at the middle-aged man and said hatefully, "It's because of that slut, Lin Xinyu, that my Zhang family provoked Chu Xiu. Back then, I told my younger brother that that woman's thoughts ran too deep. If he married her, my Zhang family wouldn't have peace. In the end, my Zhang family provoked such a disaster because of that slut." This middle-aged man was Lin Xinyu's father, the master of the Lin family. Right now he wanted to cry. If Zhang Baichen had not pestered Lin Xinyu all day, how could things have reached this stage? Tao Zongwang gave the master of the Lin family a look, telling him to leave quickly. Now Zhang Baitao was already furious. Not to mention that this matter itself had something to do with your daughter. Even if it really had nothing to do with her, Zhang Baitao was obviously ready to vent his anger on someone. The master of the Lin family fled in panic. Tao Zongwang shook his head at Zhang Baitao and said, "Master Zhang, even if you kill him, it is useless. The dead cannot come back to life. As long as you are alive, the Zhang family will be alive. In the future, the Mountain Sun Prefecture's Zhang family will depend on you. Get over it." Zhang Baitao raised his head abruptly. His eyes were wide open and bloodshot. His originally handsome face was now distorted beyond recognition. "How can I let go of the hatred of killing my father and exterminating my clan? Master Tao, I don't want the Zhang family's property anymore. I just want to know Chu Xiu's strength and his whereabouts." Zhang Baitao was not his idiot brother. Thinking of the flustered expression on Tao Yi's face when he saw him, he clearly knew what this group of people had done after the Zhang family was destroyed. But he did not care about this anymore. His father was dead, and his brother was also dead. What was the point of keeping the Zhang family? The only obsession in his heart now was revenge. Tao Zongwang thought about it, and finally shook his head with some embarrassment. "Master Zhang, of course, revenge is necessary, but I still hope that you can think about it carefully. Chu Xiu's strength is unfathomable. I once fought with him. Although we were evenly matched on the surface, if we really fight, I don't have a great chance of winning. Also, we are not very clear about his whereabouts." Our men only saw him go in the direction of Luyang Mountain. If he goes further, he will not be in the Mountain Sun Prefecture's sphere of influence. Also, we dare not follow him anymore." Zhang Baitao waved his hand absent-mindedly and let them all leave. Now he just wanted revenge. But the result was that he could not even find his enemy. Even if he found him, it was not certain whether he could kill him. As a member of the Shanyang Prefecture, although Zhang Baitao had not returned to the Shanyang Prefecture for a few years, he was still aware of Tao Zhongwang's strength. If Tao Zhongwang had no confidence in winning against him, the chances of him winning would not be high either. Northern Yan was not Bashu. If it was in Bashu, he would ask his master to use the name of the Ba Mountain Sword sect to find people. Chu Xiu would not be able to escape. But this was Northern Yan. Their Zhang family had some fame in the Mountain Sun Prefecture, but in the Linzhong Commandery, they were barely in the middle. In all of Northern Yan, the Zhang family's strength could only be said to be unranked. Zhang Baitao looked at the sword in his hand. He could choose to return to the Ba Mountain Sword sect to cultivate in seclusion, and come back for revenge after his strength increased. Or he could work hard to improve his position in the Ba Mountain Sword sect, and then use the power of the Ba Mountain Sword sect for revenge. But all of this needed time. His father and brother's bodies were still warm. How could he have the mind to cultivate and work hard? Suddenly, Zhang Baitao thought of something. He seemed to know a person in Northern Yan. Although he was not familiar with him, the power behind that person was enough to help him get revenge even if he only used a little bit of it. That person was the young master of the righteous manor of the 6 great gangs, Ling Yun, bringing rain Donglu. There were countless forces in the Jianghu. The songs of the Jianghu made by Wind Sweeping Tower, called the 6 great gangs the 6 gangs of people harmony. So the 6 great gangs were also called the 6 gangs of people harmony. They did not have the right time, nor did they have the geographical advantage. The only thing they were good at was harmony. The 6 great gangs were born in the wilderness, but they all had a large number of disciples. Although there were many with mediocre talent, there were some extremely talented people in each generation who could support the whole gang. The largest wind organization in the Jianghu, Wind Sweeping Tower, was also one of the 6 gangs of people harmony. If there were not enough people, they could not support such a huge wind organization. Of course, Wind Sweeping Tower was still tactful and did not rank themselves too high in the Jianghu songs. After all, in terms of martial strength, Wind Sweeping Tower could only be considered as the lowest existence among the 6 gangs of people harmony. Although the strength of the righteous manor was only considered average among the 6 gangs of people harmony, it had the best reputation. In the past, the righteous manor was just a small broken temple. 30 years ago, there were 5 young masters in the Jianghu who swore to punish evil and kill evil. 10 years later, these 5 young masters were already quite famous in the Jianghu. They worked together to kill the evil Dao's old devil Si Kong Fong, and became famous all over the world. 20 years later, the small broken temple had become a famous righteous manor in the Jianghu. Some Jianghu people who were born in the wilderness admired the righteous manor, and came to join them. 30 years later, the righteous manor had become one of the 6 gangs of people harmony. It was a righteous sect with tens of thousands of warriors in the manor. There were also countless Jianghu people who admired the righteous manor, and came to visit. The righteous manor also received them. There was even a rule in the righteous manor. As long as the visitors brought the heads of the villains in the Jianghu, they could exchange them for gold, silver, or even cultivation resources. The righteous manor did not reject anyone. This action made the righteous manor famous in the Jianghu, and was praised by the righteous Jianghu. Unfortunately, 4 of the 5 young masters who had gathered at the morgue had died due to various accidents. The only one who was still alive was the master of the morgue, a famous master of the righteous path in Jianghu, turning over the clouds Nieren Long. Chapter 57. The Morgue village was in Lepiang Commandery next to Linzhong Commandery. Zhang Baitao did not stop along the way, and came directly to the Morgue village. The Morgue village had been a broken temple on a small path in the wilderness, so it had not been built in the provincial capital. 30 years ago, this place was only a small dilapidated temple, but now, it was a huge villa that was tens of thousands of meters tall. It was not as luxurious as those rich and powerful families, but it still showed a calm and dignified appearance. At the gates of the morgue village, there were numerous disciples waiting. The Jianghu people came and went in an endless stream. Some Jianghu people carried boxes and bundles, which contained the heads of some villains. Such people would immediately be brought in by the disciples of the righteous manner. After verification, they would immediately be given all kinds of gold, silver, and even cultivation resources. Even if some Jianghu people came empty-handed, they would be led by the disciples of the morgue village and arranged to stay in the village. There would be enough food and wine, and they could stay as many days as they wanted. Of course, the Jianghu people who came empty-handed did not have the face to stay in the morgue village to eat and drink. Even if there were shameless people, the people of the morgue village would not even need to act. Other people coming and going from the morgue village would teach these shameless scum of the Jianghu. Seeing the prosperity of the morgue village, Zhang Baitao shook his head. The scene of the Ba Mountain Sword sect was much worse than the morgue village. The entire Ba Mountain Sword sect only had about 3,000 formal disciples. Even adding on some honorary disciples and servants, there were less than 10,000. Usually, everyone practiced the sword and cultivated on Ba Mountain. It was very quiet, and it was rare to see a noisy scene like this. Zhang Baitao walked to the gates of the morgue village. Immediately, a disciple of the morgue village walked over and respectfully raised his hands. "Sir, why have you come to the morgue village? Is there anything you need my help with?" The disciples in charge of welcoming the guests in front of the morgue were very clever. When ordinary Jianghu people came, they would only take them to eat and rest. Those who brought the heads of the bandits and villains must have a certain level of strength. After receiving the bounty from the morgue, they would arrange a higher level of food and wine. People like Zhang Baitao, who had Khanate realm power at such a young age and looked extraordinary, had to be treated well. Zhang Baitao raised his hands and said, "This one wants to see the young master of the village, Sir Nie Donglu." The disciple hesitated and said, "Young master, please forgive me. Our young master has a lot of things to do. There are many heroes coming and going in the loyalty gathering village. Our young master has to help entertain them." In reality, Nie Donglu was not so busy. But as the young master of the morgue village, he was a famous person in the younger generation of the Jianghu. If he had to see anyone who came, then he would really be too busy, and it would easily affect his cultivation. Zhang Baitao bowed with folded hands and said, "This one really has an urgent matter and wishes to see the young master. Please, little brother, help pass the message and say that Zhang Baitao of the Ba Mountain Sword sect requests an audience." When the disciple heard that Zhang Baitao was from the Ba Mountain Sword sect of the 7 sects and 8 schools, he immediately nodded and said, "Young master, please wait in the guest hall for a moment. I will go inform the young master." The disciple heard that Zhang Baitao was from one of the 7 sects and 8 schools. He immediately nodded and said, "Sir, please wait in the guest hall. I will go notify the young master." If it was a warrior from a small faction, Nie Donglu might not meet him. But the other was a disciple of Ba Mountain Sword sect, one of the 7 sects and 8 schools. He had to notify Nie Donglu before making a decision. In a study of the morgue village, a handsome young man dressed in blue brocade robes was silently studying a fist manual. This young man was only in his 20s. He was handsome, and the lines on his face seemed to have been chiseled by knives and were very sharp. However, there was a hint of a smile at the corner of his mouth. Like a mask, it covered up his sharp presence and gave people a very gentle presence. This young man was the young master of the morgue village, Ling Yinbuyu Nie Donglu. Nie Donglu's nickname was Ling Yinbuyu. The nicknames that martial artists gave people were more reliable than their names. There were only wrong names, but not wrong nicknames. In Nie Donglu's nickname, Ling Yin referred to his martial arts. At such a young age, he had already cultivated his father's heaven and earth cloud hand to initial success. Buyu referred to Nie Donglu's way of doing things. There were 2 meanings. One referred to being able to move clouds and bring rain to the people. Everyone in the Jianghu praised Nie Donglu for having his father's spirit of brotherhood. At the crucial moment, he would come to help like rain. The second referred to Nie Donglu's own abilities. He had once led a group of his Jianghu friends to kill the Black Cloud 18 villages that had done many evil deeds. He had been in the middle, and laid out one trap after another. Like moving clouds and bringing rain, he had used only 100 people to kill thousands of Black Cloud 18 villages, and become famous in the Jianghu. It was also because of this battle that Nie Donglu was ranked 6th on the Wind Sweeping Tower's Longhu leaderboard. Wind Sweeping Tower was the largest organization in the Jianghu. Not only did they rank the top forces in the Jianghu, they also had 3 leaderboards. They were the Longhu leaderboard, the Honor leaderboard, and the Supreme leaderboard. They were also collectively known as the Longhu Honor leaderboard. The rule of the Longhu leaderboard was that all young martial artists under the age of 40 could be on it, but only the top 100. This meant that the young martial artists on the leaderboard were all talented. The Honor leaderboard was named after the world's wind and clouds. There was no age or martial arts restriction. As long as you had enough fame in the Jianghu and could influence the world, you could be on the leaderboard. Therefore, there were demonic giants, righteous masters, blacksmiths, and even commoners from the royal family. The leaderboard was only ranked according to fame, not strength. There were only the top 50 on the leaderboard. There were only 10 people on the Honor leaderboard. As the name suggested, those who were on the leaderboard were the most powerful in the world. They had the power to influence the Jianghu. Wind Sweeping Tower did not have the right to rank them. Only those who were recognized by the entire Jianghu had the right to be on the leaderboard. However, there were only 8 people on the Honor leaderboard. The first and second were Dugu Weiwei, the leader of the Kunlun Devil cult, and the deity Ning Xuanji, the leader of the true martial arts sect of the 3 Pristine Dao sect. The 2 of them disappeared after the battle. It was not even certain if they were dead or alive. Therefore, the first and second place had been debated in the Jianghu for many years, but there was no conclusion. The morgue was bustling, but Nie Donglio's study was very quiet. Whether it was the famous young master of the morgue village, or the young hero ranked 6th on the Longhu leaderboard, Nie Donglu knew himself very well. All of these were built on the premise that he had strength. Without strength, it would be useless even if he had the title of the young master of the morgue village. Outsiders did not know, but Nie Donglu knew. The morgue did not belong to the Nie family alone. The 4 people who had sworn brotherhood with his father were all dead, but they all had children. If he did not live up to expectations, according to the rules of the Jianghu, those people had the right to take over the morgue. There was a knock on the door. Nie Donglu said coolly, "Come in." The people of the morgue knew Nie Donglio's rules. If someone did not have enough power to find him, they would not dare to disturb Nie Donglu. The disciple pushed the door open and said, "Young master, there is someone outside who calls himself Zhang Baitao of the Ba Mountain Sword sect asking for an audience. Do you want to see him?" Zhang Baitao. Nie Donglu searched for this name in his mind. It was not that his memory was bad, but that there were too many young heroes he knew in the Jianghu. The morgue gathered the heroes of the Jianghu. Nie Donglu knew this from a young age. He had always done this, using money to make connections. In the past, he had led hundreds of the young heroes of the Jianghu to destroy the Black Cloud 18 stockades. He had not contacted these people through the morgue, but through his own good friends. A moment later, Nie Donglu realized. "It's him, I have some impression. He is the disciple of the elder of the Ba Mountain Sword sect, Sorrowful Autumn Fu, Teacher Xin. While he is not at the top of the Ba Mountain Sword sect, he is an inner sect disciple. When I came to celebrate the birthday of the sect leader of the Ba Mountain Sword sect with my father, I once chatted with this Zhang Baitao. He is a steady person." The disciple hurriedly said, "I have arranged for him to be in the guest hall." Nie Donglu put down the fist manual in his hand and said, "All right, I will go now." In the guest hall, Zhang Baitao did not even touch the tea on the table. His face was expressionless, but he was slightly nervous inside. He knew Nie Donglu, but he had only spoken a few words to him when Nie Donglu had represented the morgue to celebrate the birthday of the sect leader of the Ba Mountain Sword sect. The 2 could not be considered friends. While he had heard that Nie Donglu was a loyal person, and that if a fellow Jianghu asked him for help, Nie Donglu would help as much as he could. But right now, he was going to use the power of the morgue to kill people. He did not know if Nie Donglu would agree. After a while, Nie Donglu walked in with a warm smile. He bowed and said, "Brother Zhang, We have not seen each other for many years since we parted at the Ba Mountain Sword Sect. How is your teacher, Eldertson? Zhang Baitao forced a smile and said, My teacher is well. After saying this, Zhang Baitao gritted his teeth and bowed deeply to Nie Donglu. He said solemnly, Young master, I originally did not want to trouble you this time. But right now, in all of Northern Yen, only you, young master, can help me. If young master helps me this time, I, Zhang Baitao, will be eternally grateful and will be at your beck and call. Chapter 58. Nie Donglu did not expect Zhang Baitao to give such a big bow to Nie Donglu. An inner disciple from a big sect like Zhang Baitao, who reached the Xiantian realm at a young age, was very proud. But now Zhang Baitao came up and gave him such a big bow. He even said that he would be at his beck and call. It was obvious that Zhang Baitao's request was not a small matter, so Nie Donglu did not agree to it rashly. He stretched out his hand and a gentle force seeped into Zhang Baitao's body, causing him to straighten up involuntarily. This made Zhang Baitao secretly surprised. This young master of the Memorial Manor was probably about to break through to the inner gang state of the 5th level of the Qi-controlling realm, the 3rd level of the body-refining realm, and the 5th level of the Qi-controlling realm was a watershed. The 5th level of the Qi-controlling realm could be considered an expert anywhere, but Nie Donglu was only in his early 20s. He was even a few years younger than Zhang Baitao. Nie Donglu patted Zhang Baitao's shoulder and said, What do you mean by always at my beck and call? I, Nie Donglu, have no subordinates, only brothers. Although I haven't known Brother Zhang for a long time, I feel like old friends at first sight. If Brother Zhang has any difficulties, just tell me. If I can help, I won't refuse. After Nie Donglu finished speaking, he still didn't say whether or not he would agree to it. However, Zhang Baitao was very touched. In his opinion, it was already very good that Nie Donglu could do this for someone he didn't know very well. So, Zhang Baitao told Nie Donglu about the matter without hesitation. Nie Donglu didn't hesitate. Finally, Zhang Baitao said with hatred, The hatred of killing my father is absolutely irreconcilable. Tu Xiu destroyed my Zhang family. If I don't kill him for revenge, what's the point of practicing martial arts? Nie Donglu raised his eyebrows. One person destroyed a small family with the Xiantian realm warrior? As a fellow Xiantian realm warrior, there were many people in the Jianghu who could do this. Even Nie Donglu could do it easily. However, there were definitely not many who could do the same, especially when the other party was so young. This made Nie Donglu hesitate. Nie Donglu thought for a moment, then said to Zhang Baitao, Brother Zhang, don't worry, I will help you with this matter. But as you can see, there are a lot of things that need to be done, so please stay here for one night. I will give you an answer tomorrow, how about it? Zhang Baitao wasn't the kind of person who didn't know what was good for him, so he quickly agreed. After sending Zhang Baitao away, Nie Donglu immediately sent someone to investigate the news of the Zhang family being annihilated in Shanyang Prefecture. The Morgue village was the local snake of the Northern Yen region. In the Northern Yen region, the Morgue village's information network was even better than wind-sweeping towers. The warriors who came and went from the Morgue village could bring them a lot of information. So it didn't take long for Nie Donglio's confidant to pass the information to him. There was a lot of detailed information about the Zhang family being annihilated in Shanyang Prefecture. There was even news from Wind Sweeping Tower. As one of the 6 gangs, Wind Sweeping Tower's headquarters might not be in the Northern Yen region, but there was a branch in Northern Yen, so they had to give the Morgue village some face. Nie Donglu flicked the paper in his hand and said lightly, A man who is never content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. That old fox of the Zhang family was like a goose that pecked his eye. Looking at this information, it should be the Zhang family who made the first move, but they were killed instead. A warrior from a small place like Shanyang Prefecture has a poor outlook. Does he really think that all the Xiantian realm warriors in the world are as strong as him? The disciple next to him asked, Young master, do you mean that the Morgue village doesn't care about Zhang Baitao's matter? Nie Donglu said lightly, Of course not. Does he really think that the Morgue village is here to clean up their mess? If he doesn't have the ability to kill, he wants the Morgue village to do it. What a joke. Also, if we care about this, what if other people ask us to care about them in the future? Vendettas in the pugilistic world are the most unreasonable things. The Zhang clan wanted to seize Chu Xiu's belongings, but Chu Xiu didn't show any mercy and ruthlessly killed the Zhang clan's father and son. Who is right and who is wrong? The disciple nodded and said, "Then we will just send this Zhang Baitao away. He is just an inner sect disciple of Ba Mountain Sword Sect, and Ba Mountain Sword Sect is so far from northern Yan. We do not have much contact with Ba Mountain Sword Sect." Nie Donglu shook his head and said, "That's where you're wrong. My mortuary manor was able to develop to this point by relying on our reputation and connections. Whether it's useful now or not, it will be useful sooner or later. It is impossible to use the Morgue Village's name to help Zhang Baitao, but it is possible to use my name to help Zhang Baitao. Tell Zhang Baitao to prepare for the banquet tonight. I will introduce a few friends to him." After nightfall, Zhang Baitao arrived on time for the banquet. He was still nervous, not knowing if Nie Donglu would help him this time. However, when it was time to eat, apart from Nie Donglu, there were 3 other Xiantian realm warriors. They were not young either, probably in their 30s or 40s. Nie Donglu introduced them to the 3. "This is Zhang Baitao, the personal disciple of the Ba Mountain Sword Sect elder, Sorrowful Autumn Poem Teacher Scene." Then he said to Zhang Baitao, "These 3 are deadly twin spears Zhang Yu, Cold Mountain Sword Li Qingfeng, and Chief Escort of Fuwei Escort Agency Lu Yuanhai." After both sides were seated, they toasted each other. Then Nie Donglu said to the 3, "This time I introduce Brother Zhang to the 3 of you because Brother Zhang is in trouble and has come to the Morgue Village for help. But there are too many things going on at the Morgue Village recently, and I can't get away. So I don't know if the 3 of you have time to help." As he spoke, Nie Donglu told the 3 about the matter. Of course, he only described it as a Jianghu killing, and did not tell them the inside information he knew. Zhang Yu and the other 2 looked at each other and frowned. They did not agree directly. The 4 of them working together to kill a Khanate cultivator did not look hard. But if Zhang Baitao had the confidence, then he would not have come to the Morgue Village. Clearly, the idea was difficult. Even Zhang Baitao was not confident. They could help, but if there was an accident and they were injured, then it would not be worth it. Seeing this, Zhang Baitao bowed to the 3 with red eyes. "If the 3 of you agree to help me, I will remember this favor. Also, as an inner sect disciple of the Ba Mountain Sword Sect, I have accumulated some cultivation resources. After this, I will give them to the 3 of you as thanks." Hearing this, the 3's eyes brightened. They looked at each other and nodded secretly. The cultivation resources given by the Ba Mountain Sword Sect, one of the 7 sects and 8 schools, were of high quality. The oldest of the 3, the chief escort of Fuwei Escort Agency, Lu Yuanfu, stroked his beard as he stood up and said, "Since young hero Zhang has said so, we will not decline your offer. Our Fuwei Escort Agency specializes in escorting goods in Linzhong Commandery. As long as Chu Xiu has not left Linzhong Commandery, I will definitely be able to find him." At the side, Nie Donglu showed a hint of a smile. His mission was now complete. If Zhang Baitao could kill Chu Xiu, he would not thank Lu Yuanhai and the other 2 who had agreed to his conditions because of the benefits, but Nie Donglu. As for Lu Yuanhai and the other 2, Nie Donglu had specially found them. He wanted to send them away temporarily, or rather, make use of them. Normally, the 3 of them did not dare to kill the truly vicious criminals who came to the morgue to exchange for the bounty. They only attacked the petty thieves and robbers who came to the morgue to fish in troubled waters. Nie Donglu had long been dissatisfied with them. But the 3 of them had some fame in the surrounding commanderies, and knew many people. For the reputation of the Morgue Village, Nie Donglu could not directly chase them away. Now was a good chance to send them away temporarily. The disciples of the Morgue Village saw this scene, and could not help but show respect in their eyes. The young master was indeed the young master. In the time it took to have a meal, he had satisfied 2 groups of people, and at the same time solved 2 problems. Just as Zhang Baitao and the others had begun to take action and were ready to seek revenge, Chu Xiu was rushing to Luyang Mountain. Luyang Mountain was just an ordinary barren mountain in the Linzhong Commandery. It was not a good place, so there were no martial arts sections. At the foot of Liang Mountain, there was only an ordinary small town, Liang Town. It was not on the main road, so few warriors would come here. But at the moment, Liang Town was very lively. There were many low-level warriors. The reason was that a few days ago, someone had seen a green light shooting into the sky at Liang Mountain. They suspected that there was a treasure here, but after investigating, they did not find anything. But even so, there were still many low-level warriors who came here to join in the fun. If there was an ancient relic, they could get some soup if they could not get the meat. When Chu Xiu arrived at Liang Town, he found an inn to stay. He did not even go up the mountain. It was true that there was a treasure in Liuyang Mountain, but the treasure was still locked in the relic at this time. It would only be revealed when the formation was completely broken. It was useless to go up the mountain now. When the time was up, the formation would be ineffective due to time, and the relic would naturally appear. So during this time, Chu Xiu had been living in seclusion. He cultivated in the inn, and only went out to eat and get some fresh air. Chapter 59. Zhang Baitao, Lu Yuanhai, Zhang Yu, and Li Qingfeng gathered outside Liang Town. Zhang Baitao asked in a deep voice, "Chief Escort Lu, are you sure that Chu Xiu is in Qingyang Town?" Lu Yuanhai waved his hand casually and said, "Don't worry, young hero Zhang. I'm absolutely reliable." The brothers of the escort agency have found out that although Chu Xiu has been living in seclusion since he came to Liang Town and didn't reveal his name, it must be him based on his appearance and clothes. A cold light flashed in Zhang Baitao's eyes and he said, "Well, I'll leave it to you this time." The three of them also cupped their hands and said, "Don't worry, young hero Zhang. This time, we will definitely help you get rid of Chu Xiu." At this time, in Liang Town, Chu Xiu was still sitting leisurely by the window of the inn, drinking and eating. In his mind, he was constantly thinking about the operation of the piercing sun and moon internal skill. Compared with the Xiantian skill, the piercing sun and moon internal skill was of great help to Chu Xiu's combat effectiveness. Similarly, this skill also played a great role in the operation of genuine qi. Although the piercing sun and moon internal skill would not really reach the power of the piercing sun and moon internal skill, at least it would not be a problem for him to cut out the sword light with his bare hands. It could be said that this martial art was most suitable for warriors at the 5th level of qi-controlling realm to practice. With Chu Xiu's current realm, he should also consider how to step into the 5th level of qi-controlling realm, which was a big bottleneck for Chu Xiu. Just as Chu Xiu was eating and thinking, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. Chu Xiu had killed a lot of people, and because of his own cultivation skill, he was somewhat sensitive to killing intent or evil spirit. At this time, he faintly felt that there was a murderous intent around him, and the center of it was himself. Chu Xiu raised his head and saw two people walking into the inn. One of them was holding two short spears while the other was carrying a heavy sword on his back. Outside the inn, near the window of Chu Xiu's room, there were two people walking towards him. One of them was a bit older, looking to be in his 40s. He held a long saber in his hand, while the other was dressed in blue and held a long sword in his hand. Chu Xiu didn't know Zhang Baitao. Although he was Zhang Baichen's brother, his appearance was different from Zhang Baichen's. However, Chu Xiu could feel a deep hatred in his eyes. He didn't know if it was towards him or others. Picking up the wine cup, Chu Xiu pretended to drink, but the next moment, the wine cup in his hand suddenly flew out of his hand and was thrown with great force towards Zhang Yu, the deadly twin spears. Chu Xiu himself jumped out and unsheathed the red sleeve saber on the table. A magnificent crimson color appeared in front of Li Qingfeng's eyes. Chu Xiu didn't know who these four people were, and he wasn't even 100% sure that these four people were coming for him. However, since he felt a murderous intent from these four people, and these four people were not weak innate experts, Chu Xiu had to make the first move. Otherwise, if he was surrounded by these four people, Chu Xiu didn't have absolute confidence that he could escape from four strong innate experts. The sudden attack made Zhang Yu and Li Qingfeng unable to react. In fact, they had already noticed Chu Xiu from the moment they entered the inn. There were so many Jianghu people in the inn, but only Chu Xiu was the most conspicuous and the strongest. However, they deliberately didn't look at Chu Xiao and just pretended to walk into the inn normally. They wanted to form an encirclement with Zhang Baitao and Lu Yuanhai, who were outside the inn, so that Chu Xiao couldn't escape. But who would have thought that Chu Xiao, who was drinking quietly one moment, would suddenly make a move the next moment? When they reacted, the wine cup and Chu Xiao's figure were already in front of them. Zhang Yu used 2 short spears, and the wine cup was supported by Chu Xiao's powerful strength. After it was thrown, it directly broke through the air with a powerful sound. Its power was not much weaker than those sharp hidden weapons, so Zhang Yu could only subconsciously block the wine cup with his spear in front of his body. At this time, Chu Xiao's saber had already slashed out. The crimson saber was shining with a strange red light. Chu Xiao's true qi sword, and the murderous intent in his eyes condensed into a murderous aura. The two merged into one, condensing on the body of Chu Xiao's saber, flashing a dazzling blood-red light. Even though Chu Xiao had not yet reached the 5th level of the Imperial Qi realm, his saber at this time already had the style of an inner Qi realm martial artist. Li Qingfeng had never seen such a terrifying saber force. In front of him was endless blood red, as if he would be swallowed in the next moment. With a loud shout, Li Qingfeng's figure turned, and the cold mountain heavy sword on his back was already in his hand, blocking in front of his body. His cold mountain heavy sword was a 4th transformation weapon that he had obtained by chance in the past. For a Xiantian martial artist who was born as a rogue cultivator to be able to hold a 4th transformation precious weapon was already considered very rare. The saber and the sword clashed, and a loud clang resounded. The powerful force brought by piercing the sun and the moon suddenly exploded from the edge of the saber, making a loud sound. Li Qingfeng let out a muffled groan, and his eyes revealed a trace of horror. The webbing between his thumb and forefinger was bleeding, and under the impact of the saber, Li Qingfeng continuously retreated several steps. He cultivated the heavy sword, but now he was directly crushed by Chu Xiao's strength. Before he could react, the crimson saber light appeared again. The cold mountain heavy sword in Li Qingfeng's hand had yet to dance, but Chu Xiao's saber force suddenly changed, becoming ethereal and magnificent, like the light drizzle of dusk. It was incomparably graceful, but it also carried a magnificent, murderous aura. Under the continuous blade momentum that was like a drizzle, it finally converged into a line in an instant. The inner strength that could pierce through the sun and moon suddenly exploded. At this moment, human heads danced in the air, and blood burst out like a fountain. The entire inn suddenly became silent, and then there were ear-piercing screams. The inn's workers and the ordinary people who were eating screamed and ran out, afraid that they would be accidentally injured. Zhang Yu, who was at the side, held 2 spears in his hands, and looked at Chu Xiao in a daze. From the time Chu Xiao threw the cup to the time he blocked with his spear, how long had it taken? In the end, by the time he was free, Chu Xiao had actually killed Li Qingfeng with 1 strike. At this time, Zhang Yu suddenly felt that it was not easy to take Zhang Baitao's things. If they had known that this opponent was so terrifying, even if Nie Donglu was the middleman, they would not have agreed. Chu Xiao's imposing manner of killing 1 person first made Zhang Yu and Lu Yuanhai, who was outside the inn, feel a sense of fear in their hearts. These 3 were all wily old foxes in this generation of martial arts in Linzhong Commandery and Leping Commandery. Usually, when asked to deal with real villains, they would only hire some petty thieves to make up the numbers. They did not expect that they would encounter such a fierce person. Zhang Baitao frowned. He also felt the fear in the hearts of these 2 people, and at the same time, he was shocked by Chu Xiao's strength. He finally knew how his father died. With this kind of strength, even if the Zhang family had another innate expert, they would still not be able to stop him. However, how could Zhang Baitao give up when the enemy who killed his father was right in front of him? He directly shouted, "The hatred of my father is absolutely irreconcilable. Chu Xiao, go to hell." Then, Zhang Baitao directly smashed the window of the inn with his sword, jumped into the inn, and attacked Chu Xiao, not giving Zhang Yu and Lu Yuanhai a chance to hesitate. Hearing the words, "the hatred of my father," Chu Xiao immediately understood who the opponent was. These 4 people really came for him, and the one who attacked should be Zhang Songling's eldest son, Zhang Baitao, who had joined the Ba Mountain Sword sect. Irreconcilable? Since you dare to come today, I will send you to reunite with your dead father. Then, Chu Xiu chopped out with the red sleeve knife in his hand. The drizzle was crimson, and the knife momentum was endless, colliding with Zhang Baitao's purple electric cyan light sword. The lightning was like thunder, and the sword qi was like a rainbow. Zhang Baitao attacked with hatred, pouring his internal force into the long sword. Every time he chopped, there was a numbing tremor, and even Chu Xiu's Xiantian skill could not offset it. But at the same time, Chu Xiu's dusk drizzle red sleeve blade also had a strange and sorrowful blade momentum, and its speed was extremely fast. The two of them exchanged dozens of blows in the blink of an eye. They were evenly matched and neither took a step back. Zhang Baitao shouted at Zhang Yu and Lu Yuanhai. What are you waiting for if you don't attack? Don't forget what you promised the young Heights Lord. Zhang Yu and Lu Yuanhai's expressions changed. If Zhang Baitao had come to find them, they would have run away by now, instead of getting involved in this mess. But the problem was that Nie Donglu was the middleman. If they went back on their word, how could they explain it to Nie Donglu in the future? As people of the Northern Yan martial arts world, and born in the wilderness, they would rather offend the Northern Yan imperial court than offend the Morgue village, because the latter would make them rejected by the entire Northern Yan martial arts world. The two looked at each other, and then looked at Chu Xiu, who seemed to be evenly matched with Zhang Baitao. Gritting their teeth, they began to attack Chu Xiu from both sides with Zhang Baitao. Chapter 60. Zhang Baitao was the strongest martial artist that Chu Xiu had fought with since he entered Jianghu. He was also the one with the most authentic background. He was an inner disciple of a major sect. The rest, such as Li Zhong, the fire monk of the Great Light Temple, and Shen Bai's younger brother, Shen Mo, were not formally taught martial arts since they were young. In fact, Chu Xiu was the same. Although he had obtained many powerful skills through the advantage of the plot prophet, he did not have a master to teach him. The basic skills like the Xiantian skill were fine, but the rest of the martial arts, such as the application of piercing the sun and the moon, were all figured out by Chu Xiu himself. In the end, he used them in actual combat, and thought about modifying them after the battle. Although this kind of unorthodox method sounded a little unreliable, everything was based on actual combat. No matter who the person in front of him was, no matter what kind of martial arts he used, as long as he could kill his opponent, then it was good martial arts. Among the countless purple electric sword lights, a touch of crimson was flowing there. The sword momentum was like a drizzle. Although it looked ethereal, it was extremely firm. At this time, Zhang Yu and Lu Yuanhai also pressed on from the left and right. The weapons used by Zhang Yu were very strange. They turned out to be two short spears. The left spear was evil and strange, and it was hard to say from which angle it would stab, while the right spear was strong and heavy. Although it was a short spear, when it swept and smashed, even Chu Xiu did not dare to take it head-on. Although Lu Yuanhai's martial arts were relatively mediocre, the saber in his hand was extremely sinister. The saber light could be slashed from anywhere, forcing Chu Xiu to dodge with all his might. His method was actually somewhat similar to the blood saber scripture that Chu Xiu first cultivated. These three people were not weak in actual combat. With the three of them working together, Chu Xiu was directly forced into a corner. A trace of cold light flashed in Zhang Baitao's eyes, and the long sword in his hand suddenly erupted with a bright green electric light. Fast, extremely fast. Like a bolt of lightning falling from the 9 heavens, in an instant, Chu Xiu was forced to barely defend with his saber. However, his hands had already been shaken by the internal energy that contained the power of purple lightning to the point that he could not even hold his saber steadily. Although Zhang Baitao hadn't reached the 5th level of qi control, his inner strength had already accumulated to the peak. Through the transmission of the weapon in his hand, the power of the purple lightning was incomparably strong. On his right, Lu Yuanhai was also very experienced. Cooperating with Zhang Baitao, the saber in his hand rippled with a frightening cold light. Like a poisonous snake, it twisted and slashed towards Chu Xiu's dantian. Phantom snake blade. With a qi sound, the saber light streaked across the front of Chu Xiu's body, tearing apart his warrior clothes. The sharp edge of the long saber even made him feel as if he was being pricked by needles. At this moment, a whistling wind suddenly attacked. Zhang Yu held his spear with both hands, and violent blood essence and true energy condensed in his hands. The two spears merged into one, and directly smashed down like a sledgehammer. The momentum was incomparably fierce and violent. At this moment, Chu Xiu had already been forced into a corner by Zhang Baitao's violet electric cyan light sword and Lu Yuanhai's phantom snake blade. There was no room for him to dodge. Although it was the first time the three of them worked together, it was incomparably smooth. Zhang Baitao, who was the strongest among them, did not act as the real killer. Instead, it was Zhang Yu, who had always kept a low profile, who carried out the killing blow. At this moment, Chu Xiu suddenly swept his saber horizontally. He did not care about Zhang Baitao and Lu Yuanhai, and used all his strength to meet Zhang Yu's two spears smashing down. Zhang Baitao and Lu Yuanhai's eyes revealed a hint of killing intent. This Chu Xiu was already panicking, and he was definitely going to die. Just when they wanted to make a move to kill Chu Xiu, Zhang Yu's two spears had already smashed down. The huge force caused Chu Xiu, who had hastily blocked it, to tremble his internal organs, and a stream of blood flowed out of his mouth. But at this time, he borrowed the force of the two spears smashing down to lean back, and the spirit-piercing sun and moon condensed his internal energy. However, he did not condense it in his hands, but behind him. The two forces superimposed, and only a loud bang was heard. The brick wall of the inn was directly smashed down, and Chu Xiu's figure directly jumped out of the inn, causing Zhang Baitao and Lu Yuanhai's sword and saber to miss. The two people's expressions suddenly changed. They did not expect Chu Xiu to have such a trick up his sleeve. Previously, they wanted to surround and kill Chu Xiu in the inn, but he still managed to escape. Quickly chase. Chu Xiu is injured, he can't escape. Zhang Baitao shouted at Zhang Yu. Zhang Yu was not an idiot. Without Zhang Baitao's instructions, he directly jumped out of the inn, wanting to chase after Chu Xiu while the momentum of the two spears had not subsided. But at this time Chu Xiu, who had already jumped out of the range of the inn, suddenly turned back, and his figure collided with Zhang Yu, his eyes bursting with killing intent. Zhang Yu did not expect Chu Xiu to take the initiative to turn back. Although he was using a short spear, it was still a long weapon. When Chu Xiu got close to him, he subconsciously withdrew his long spear to block. But at this time he was shocked to find that Chu Xiu had unknowingly grabbed his short spear with his left hand. Using the great sacrificial grappling hand, Chu Xiu's left hand had already grabbed his shoulder along the short spear. A burst of bone-cracking sounds came, and in an instant, Zhang Yu's left arm had been twisted like a fried dough twist. Chu Xiu's left hand moved along his arm, like a twisting poisonous snake, and pinched Zhang Yu's head. Before he could scream, Zhang Yu's head had already turned around and flew towards Zhang Baitao and Lu Yuanhai. Zhang Baitao and Lu Yuanhai, who were about to catch up, did not expect such a situation to happen. Just now, they had forced Chu Xiu to a dead end, but in the blink of an eye, he killed one of them. Seeing the head flying towards him, Zhang Baitao subconsciously slashed with his sword, but in the next moment, a crimson saber light had already appeared in front of him. It was an extremely swift and fierce saber, so fast that Zhang Baitao could not even see the blade clearly. He could only see a touch of dazzling crimson. Azure Dragon in the sleeve. This extremely fast saber was the Azure Dragon in the sleeve, the hidden saber technique that had greatly helped Chu Xiu when he first started cultivating. In the beginning, Chu Xiu just subconsciously thought that hiding the saber in the sleeve was the hidden saber technique. It was not until just now that Chu Xiu realized that the so-called hidden saber technique was also hiding himself. When it was calm, it would be hidden under the sea, and when it erupted, it would be like an azure dragon emerging from the sea, tearing the sky apart. This saber had the incomparable charm of an azure dragon emerging from the sea. In addition, Chu Xiu had used the piercing sun and moon internal strength evil chi to display it. When this saber slashed down, it was the most powerful saber slash that Chu Xiu had ever made. Zhang Baitao clenched his teeth, and the long sword in his hand burst out a dazzling green light. The sword light danced, like an extremely powerful sword momentum. But Chu Xiu's saber was really too fast. Before he could use his sword move, It was shattered by Chu Xiu's saber. Even the fourth-rank sword in his hand was cut in half by Chu Xiu. The saber light sliced across his body. Even though Zhang Baitao retreated quickly, he was cut from his shoulder to his armpit by Chu Xiu's saber. Blood sprayed, and one of his arms was almost destroyed. Zhang Baitao's eyes were bloodshot. He did not retreat but advanced. His sword was broken, but he still had his hands. Why was a sect like Ba Mountain Sword Sect only ranked among the 7 sects and 8 schools, and not the 5 great sword sects? Not just because they were not strong enough, but because their sword path was not as pure as the 5 great sword sections. Without the sword, Ba Mountain Sword Sect still had other martial arts. Zhang Baitao pressed forward, his right hand pointing out with a finger. In a flash, it was as fast as lightning. Lightning pattern sword finger. In an instant, finger shadows flew, pointing at the major acupoints all over Chu Xiu's body. Zhang Baitao shouted, "Attack!" But at this time, Lu Yuanhai did not cooperate with Zhang Baitao. Instead, he turned and ran out of the inn. Li Qingfeng and Zhang Yu's deaths had truly terrified him. This Chu Xiu was too terrifying. Putting aside his strength, his methods were truly ruthless. He did not attack, but once he attacked, he took a life. When this Chu Xiu attacked again, he would most likely be the one dead. If he ran now, he would offend Nie Donglu at most. If he did not leave, he might even lose his life. Seeing this, Zhang Baitao was so angry that he wanted to curse. Cunning people like Lu Yuanhai were fierce when fighting a winning battle, but once they were in a difficult situation, they would only be a hindrance. Chu Xiu and them were all Khanate cultivators. He attacked 3 times in a row, killed 2 people, and seriously injured 1. Could it be that Chu Xiu was not injured at all? Just now he had taken Zhang Yu's powerful double spear attack head-on. Although he had diverted the force, his internal organs had been shaken, and his own internal power had been greatly consumed. So Zhang Baitao had the courage to fight with Chu Xiu because he could still see an opportunity to kill Chu Xiu. But who would have thought that Lu Yuanhai would escape at this time, when he was fighting with all his might, and leave him here? But at this time, Zhang Baitao did not have time to think. The red sleeve drizzled, and the bright blade light enveloped him. The lightning patterned sword finger and the red sleeve blade collided, and there was a clang. Using the power of the lightning patterned sword finger, Zhang Baitao wanted to escape, but at this time, Chu Xiu's blade was shrouded in an extremely thick murderous intent and evil aura. Heaven's murderous intent, piercing the sun and moon. The scarlet blade pierced through Zhang Baitao's chest. The color of Chu Xiu's eyes also bloomed with a strange scarlet color. Irreconcilable? Then I'll send you to meet your father and brother, so that your family can reunite. No need to thank me. The blade was pulled out, and Zhang Baitao's eyes still had a trace of unwillingness, but he fell to the ground with a loud thud. Chapter 61. 4 innate realm warriors of the same level had joined forces to kill him. They were all experienced fighters, and were in their prime. Although Chu Xiu had successfully killed 3 of them, he had also suffered some injuries. But it didn't matter. There was still a long time before the opening of the Liang Mountain relic. He could completely recover from these minor injuries before the relic opened. Looking outside the inn, Chu Xiu's eyes revealed a hint of coldness. He had killed 3 people, but there was still 1 left. At this time, a group of people had gathered outside the inn. Most of them were low-level Jianghu people. It was very common for those who mingled in the Jianghu to fight with each other. It was normal for those who sold goods to steal business, and those who opened martial arts schools to cause trouble. However, a real life-and-death fight was relatively rare for them, especially when it involved a life-and-death fight between Xiantian realm martial artists. Furthermore, the people who attacked him were not nameless figures in the region around the Linzhong commandery. Someone who came later asked curiously, "Everyone, what's the situation inside?" One of the warriors who had witnessed the whole process sighed and said, "What a terrible fight! Cold Mountain Sword, Li Qingfeng of Linzhong Commandery's lofty mountain prefecture was beheaded in an instant. Li Qingfeng had obtained the 4th Revolution precious weapon Cold Mountain Heavy Sword, and made a name for himself not long ago. But he died just like that. It was really bad luck. And deadly twin spears Zhang Yu of Lepian Commandery. When he was young, he only learned a little martial arts from a martial arts school's boxing master before he came out to roam Jianghu. He had 2 spears, but unfortunately, his death was even more tragic. His head was directly twisted off, and blood spurted out a foot high. The warrior who used the fast sword was the strongest. He seemed to be from a big sect. I couldn't tell the specifics. In the end, he was also stabbed through by someone. Only the chief escort of Fuwei Escort Agency, Lu Yuanhai, retreated at the last moment. He didn't rush forward and fight with his life on the line. That old fox had always been very sly. When he encountered a strong enemy, he would definitely throw away the client's goods to save his life. It was normal for him to do such a thing. As for the killer, TSK, his strength is really strong, and his methods are also really ruthless. However, I really don't know him. When did our Linzhong commandery have such a fierce person? That warrior explained the situation to the people behind him. At this time, a gentle voice suddenly sounded. If I am not wrong, that sword user should be using the purple lightning azure light sword of the Ba Mountain Sword Sect's secret 8-character sword art. The other is a disciple of the Ba Mountain Sword Sect of West Chu, one of the 7 sects and 8 schools. The cultivator turned his head and saw a white-robed, incomparably handsome young man with a faint smile on his face. He didn't know when this young man had appeared beside him. The most eye-catching thing about the white-clothed young man was the silver halberd on his back. The shape of the halberd was huge and ferocious. It didn't match his handsome appearance and temperament at all. The warrior was just about to say something when he saw Lu Yuanhai run out in a panic and look around. Feeling the murderous intent coming from behind him, Lu Yuanhai couldn't care so much. Everyone was watching and they surrounded the inn. Lu Yuanhai randomly chose a direction and slashed forward. He shouted angrily, "All of you get out of my way!" The direction Lu Yuanhai was looking for was the direction of the talkative warrior. This warrior's mouth was very sharp, but seeing Lu Yuanhai slash at him, he was so frightened he forgot to dodge and stood there in a daze. Just as he was about to be chopped down by Lu Yuanhai's blade, the white-robed young man beside him suddenly raised the long halberd in his hand. The crescent blade on the body of the halberd flickered with a frightening cold light. It was just a light flick, but there was a great force that attacked. The blade in Lu Yuanhai's hand was instantly shattered, and he himself spat out a mouthful of blood as he was sent flying. But at this time, Chu Xiu had already appeared behind him. The red sleeve knife directly pierced through Lu Yuanhai's heart from the back. The martial artist who had escaped death stared dumbfoundedly at the handsome young man beside him. He was actually a Xiantian realm martial artist. Chu Xiu pulled the red sleeve knife out of Lu Yuanhai's corpse. Looking at the young man holding the halberd, who was so handsome that even women would be jealous, he suddenly felt that the other person was somewhat familiar. "Thank you for your help." Chu Xiu bowed to the person. The young man smiled and said, "No need to thank me. With your strength, without me, you wouldn't have been able to escape. I was just disdainful that this person didn't dare to fight to the death with you, but dared to be so arrogant to the bystanders." "Right. Why did they want to kill you?" Chu Xiu sheathed his knife and said casually, "I killed the entire family of the Ba Mountain Sword Sect warrior. Now he naturally wants to kill me. It's that simple." A strange look appeared in the young man's eyes. Killing in the martial world, or even the annihilation of an entire family, was very common. But when a normal person was asked about this, they would definitely explain how much hatred they had with the person, and how they were forced to kill, and so on. But this person in front of him played it down, and said that he had killed his entire family. He was so frank and natural. This was the first time he had seen such a person. At this time, Chu Xiu saw that the innkeeper was still hiding in the crowd. Looking at the destroyed inn, he wanted to cry but had no tears. Chu Xiu threw an ingot of silver to the innkeeper and said, "You destroyed your inn, put the silver on me." "That's right, send some good dishes to my room tonight. After a battle, I need to replenish my energy." Holding the silver in his hand, the innkeeper really wanted to cry this time. "You still want to stay here?" If this happened a few more times, his inn would not just be destroyed, but torn down. But he did not dare to refuse. He had seen many people of the martial world, but it was the first time the innkeeper had seen someone as vicious as Chu Xiu, someone who killed so decisively. The young man on the other side looked at Chu Xiu with interest. Ever since he stepped into Jianghu, he had seen many people. There were good people and evil people, but most of them were hypocrites and despicable people who wandered between good and evil. If you said this person was evil, he could say that he had killed someone's entire family without batting an eyelid. Just now he had been vicious. But just now he could still think of the innkeeper, an ordinary person's loss. Even some martial artists who had been famous for a long time would unconsciously look down on ordinary people. The young man cupped his hands and said to Chu Xiu, "I am Lu Fengxian of Yuyang Yanxi. Of course, I am not the Fengxian of the ancient devil Marquis LV1Ho, but Fengxian of the Impatience." After hearing the young man's self-introduction, Chu Xiu's eyes suddenly shrank. He finally realized who the other party was. Suppressing the shock in his heart, Chu Xiu also cupped his hands and said, "I am Chu Xiu, the Xiu that means everything is over." Lu Fengxian held his long halberd and said with a smile, "Brother Chu, I still have to go to Luyang Mountain to join in the fun. Let's talk again when we have time." After saying that, Lu Fengxian directly left. Chu Xiu looked at his back, but it was unknown what he was thinking. In the year after transmigrating and being reborn, Chu Xiu had seen many people, but there was not one that could be called an important person in the original plot. A name that could be remembered by Chu Xiu must be an important person that could stir the world in the original plot, and even push the entire history of the martial world forward. For example, Zhang Baitao, who he had just killed, was an inner sect disciple of the Ba Mountain Sword sect. He came from the 7 sects and 8 schools, and could be considered a young hero of the righteous martial world. If Chu Xiu had not interfered, and according to the normal plot, the other would most likely have become a supervisor or an elder of the Ba Mountain Sword sect. He would have been a person in the higher ranks of the Ba Mountain Sword sect. In the Ba Mountain Sword sect, he was a person, but in the entire martial world, he was not enough. But this Lu Fengxian, who was so handsome that even women could not help but be jealous, was a hero that could influence the entire martial world in the original plot. Lu Fengxian's name was very interesting. It was the same sound as an ancient legendary expert, Marquis LV1Ho, who was revered as the demon god. Because his name was Fengxian, it was a bit feminine. However, LV Fengxian had never avoided this point. He had even told others that because his parents were illiterate, they saw impatience blooming when they went out to give birth to him, so they named him LV Fengxian. Lu Fengxian did not come from a large sect. His martial arts were learned from a disabled old soldier from the Northern Yin military in the village when he was young. It was not profound, but he walked the path of extreme killing. After wandering the Jianghu, LV Fengxian gained some fame in a few counties in the west of Yan. However, it was not because of his martial arts, but because of his loyalty and gentleness. He made friends with many people in the Jianghu, and some people even gave him the nickname, Little Marquis One. Of course, this nickname was mostly a mockery of his name. But no one had expected that a decade later, Lu Fengxian would receive the supreme cultivation methods of the ancient, demon god, Marquis LV1Ho, the 9 heavens fiend golden body, and the demon god peerless halberd. He became the famous heir of the demon god, Jade Face Marquis 1Ho Lu Fengxian. But from then on, Lu Fengxian always wore a hideous demon god mask, and rarely showed his true appearance. Chapter 62. Chu Xiu didn't expect that he would meet Lu Fengxian, the famous Jianghu Jade Face Marquis in the future, on this trip to Luyang Mountain. In Chu Xiu's memory, Lu Fengxian didn't appear in the treasure hunt at Luyang Mountain. Of course, it was possible that he did, but Lu Fengxian was just a nobody in the Jianghu at that time. He didn't even get on the Longhu list, nor did he shine in the treasure hunt, so there was no record of him in the plot. The evaluation of Lu Fengxian in the future was very interesting, because there were as many people who scolded and praised him in the Jianghu. Lu Fengxian was definitely not a person of the righteous Tao. In order to seek revenge, he had chased his enemies for thousands of miles in anger. Countless people of the righteous Tao interceded and intercepted him, but they either got lost or were killed by him one by one. From this point, it could be seen that Lu Fengxian was definitely a person of the diabolism with an extreme character. Even among his friends, there were many who came from the diabolism. Later on, he also practiced the diabolism skills, so most people considered him to be on the side of the diabolism. But if you said that he was a person of the diabolism, Lu Fengxian had never killed innocent people. On the contrary, as long as there was something he couldn't stand, he would attack regardless of whether the other party was from the righteous Tao or the diabolism. Moreover, the reason why he killed people was very simple. If he felt that they deserved to be killed, then they deserved to be killed. Just like Lu Yuanhai just now, if Lu Yuanhai hadn't slashed with his saber, Lu Fengxian wouldn't have stopped him. He would have just silently dodged. But Lu Yuanhai just had to slash with his saber, which made Lu Fengxian feel that he was a person who bullied the weak and feared the strong. He was very annoying, so he took action. Moreover, Lu Fengxian had many friends in the Jianghu. Although he wasn't very righteous and had friends all over the world, as long as they were his friends, Lu Fengxian would definitely help them to the end. So no one could say a bad word about him. Of course, it was not only his friends who praised Lu Fengxian in Jianghu. There were also some young ladies from aristocratic families and female disciples from large sections. Even though looks were considered as an embroidered pillow in the Jianghu, people like Lu Fengxian, who had both looks and strength, were extremely attractive to women, aside from the fact that he did not have a powerful sect behind him. These were just other people's evaluations of Lu Fengxian. But if Chu Xiu were to evaluate Lu Fengxian, Chu Xiu could only say that he was a very self-centered person. In Lu Fengxian's heart, there was no such thing as good or evil. If he felt that this was the right thing to do, then he would do it. If you become his friend, he will come to help you. If you provoke him, he will definitely not show mercy when he kills you. In any case, for Chu Xiu, there was absolutely no harm in making friends with someone like Lu Fengxian. The corpses in the inn were all cleared out. Chu Xiu went through the pockets of the people in front of everyone. Other than Zhang Baitao, who had some precious medicine produced by the Ba Mountain Sword sect, the other three had nothing of value. But thinking about it, it was reasonable. After all, they did not have a secret space box like Chu Xiu, who would put all his possessions in it. Taking away the bottles of medicine, Chu Xiu went upstairs and prepared to return to his room to heal. But at this time, Chu Xiu seemed to think of something. Just now, Zhang Baitao seemed to have said something. It seemed that these people had come to help him kill him because of that young master. Previously, Chu Xiu had been wondering how Zhang Baitao had found these three people to work together to kill him. Zhang Baitao was a disciple of the Ba Mountain Sword sect, and did not have any connections in the northern Yan. While the Ba Mountain Sword sect was one of the 7 sects and 8 schools, the 7 sects and 8 schools were not the Buddhist sects of the north and south. They only had a certain amount of local power. Outside of their respective regions, it was the same thing. It all depended on whether the other party gave them face. So the Azure Water Sword sect only put out a wanted order for Chu Xiu in the Wei Commandery, because they also knew that outside of the Wei Commandery, even if someone saw Chu Xiu, they would not bother to tell them, unless they offered a sufficiently tempting reward. Now it seemed that Zhang Baitao had asked the young master for help, and the young master took the lead to have 3 Khanate martial artists help Zhang Baitao kill him. As for who this young master was, it was not hard to guess. In a place like the northern Yan, who had this kind of face and could make a disciple from a large sect like Zhang Baitao address him as young master. Other than the young master of the mortuary manor, Ling Yunbu Nye Donglu, who else could it be? Thinking of this, Chu Xiu laughed coldly. That young master Nye Donglu was also very active in the Jianghu later on. His father, Flip Heaven and Earth, Nye Renlong, managed the mortuary manor into one of the 6 gangs. And Nye Donglu had long been famous in the Jianghu, ranked 6th on the Longhu leaderboard. The 3 people who came to kill him were not from the mortuary manor, but they had some dealings with the mortuary manor. Nye Donglu clearly felt that Zhang Baitao's status was not high enough for him to send people from the mortuary manor. Or in other words, with Chu Xiu's current strength and status, he was not high enough for Nye Donglu to send people from the mortuary manor to kill him. Although Chu Xiu did not die this time, the grudge had been formed. Moreover, if there were no accidents, Nye Donglu would also come to fight for the treasure in Liuyang Mountain. At that time, regardless of whether there was a grudge between the two, when it came to the real fight for the treasure, there would definitely be a battle. The next morning, Chu Xiu left the inn early and went to a small restaurant in Liuyang Town to eat. In a small place like Liuyang Town, the food and wine in the inn were a little bad, so Chu Xiu wanted to change his taste. As soon as he entered the tavern, he saw that Lu Fengxian had already ordered a table full of dishes and was eating. Beside him was his very conspicuous silver halberd. Lu Fengxian was somewhat famous in Yanxi. However, Linzhong County was located in the east of Yan Kingdom, so most warriors here did not know Lu Fengxian. However, yesterday, Lu Fengxian smashed Lu Yuanhai's weapon with his halberd, revealing his innate realm cultivation. This also let the warriors from Liuyang Town know that he was also a young expert and could not be provoked. Seeing Chu Xiu walk in, Lu Fengxian quickly said, "Brother Chu, sit down and eat together." Chu Xiu did not stand on ceremony. He directly sat opposite Lu Fengxian, poured a cup of wine and asked, "Brother Lu, yesterday you went to Liuyang Mountain. Did you gain anything?" Lu Fengxian shook his head with a wry smile and said, "Nothing. I even suspect that these things are rumors, but it doesn't matter if they are rumors. I was originally prepared to travel in Jianghu, so it doesn't matter where I go." Chu Xiu said lightly, "Brother Lu, don't worry. Let's not talk about whether there is a treasure in Liuyang Mountain or not. Even if there is a treasure, the first people to hear the movement and come are those from the big sections. Now look at Liuyang Mountain, how many people are from the big sects? So you don't have to worry. When those people from the big sects also come to Liuyang Mountain, then it can prove that there is really a treasure in Liuyang Mountain." Lu Fengxian nodded and said, "That's true." After that, the two of them chatted about all sorts of things. From LV Fengxian's point of view, Chu Xiu's character was more in line with his character. Apart from being a little extreme in certain areas, and having a strong killing intent. Before he stepped into Jianghu, his master told him that if he wanted to live well in this Jianghu, he had to make more friends and fewer enemies. When he could make all the people in Jianghu be his friends and no enemies, then he would be really successful in Jianghu. Lu Fengxian listened to his master more than his parents, so he had made a lot of friends since he stepped into Jianghu. But at the same time, although he was gentle and easy to talk to, his temper was also stubborn. He didn't know how to compromise and didn't care about other people's opinions. So in the past few years, he had made a lot of friends in West Yan, but he had also offended a lot of people, maybe even more. At this moment, a young martial artist in green suddenly stumbled in. Seeing that Lu Fengxian was here, he ran over and knelt on one knee in front of Lu Fengxian. He said with a sobbing tone, "Big brother Lu, I beg you to save my Qin family." Lu Fengxian quickly helped him up and said in surprise, "Qin Tong, aren't you traveling outside? Why are you here? What happened to the Chun family?" Although Lu Fengxian had only stepped into Jianghu for a few years, he had many friends. Qin Tong was one of them, and it just so happened that his family was in Linzhong Commandery. Of course, Qin Tong wasn't as strong as him. He was only in the blood condensation realm. Chu Xiu frowned slightly as he looked at Qin Tong. He felt that his crying was a bit fake. In his previous life, Chu Xiu hadn't been trash, but he had pretended to be a hedonistic young master in his family for over 20 years. In the end, he had pretended to be a bit convinced. In terms of acting skills, Chu Xiu felt that if he had acted in a movie in his previous life, it would have been possible for him to win the Best Actor award. So while Lu Fengxian didn't feel anything, Chu Xiu felt that Qin Tong was just putting on an act. Chapter 63. Lu Fengxian helped Qin Tong up and let him sit down. Then he asked, "What happened to your Qin clan? Don't worry, I won't refuse if I can help you." Qin Tong quickly said, "It's like this. Our Qin clan bought a batch of secret boxes some time ago. They were all substandard products with unknown origins. We didn't expect to find anything good in them. They were supposed to be used as a gift for my father's 60th birthday. But who would have thought that there was a 6th Revolution Spirit Herb Purple Leaf Dogwood in that batch of secret boxes? Moreover, it was spread by the servants of our Qin clan. After this matter was spread out, several major forces around Cold River Prefecture, including 3 Mountains Sect, Black Tiger Gang, and you clan all wanted to snatch it. If it weren't for these three forces being wary of each other, I'm afraid our Qin clan would have been finished long ago. When Lu Fengxian heard this, he directly held the silver halberd next to him and said in a deep voice, "Don't worry. I can't kill all the people from these three forces, but I'm confident that I can protect your Qin clan from them." As he said this, Lu Fengxian was about to get up, but Chen Tong quickly held him down and said, "Elder brother Lu, each of those three forces has more than one Xiantian expert. We can't fight them head-on. I came to ask elder brother Lu for help. I heard that Donglu, the young master of that place, is extremely righteous. So, I want elder brother Lu to help us invite young master Donglu. As long as he says the word, this matter should be solved." LV Fengxian didn't think too much, and was about to agree when Chu Xiu suddenly frowned when he heard Donglu's name. He pressed down on LV Fengxian's arm and suddenly asked, "Brother, since you want to invite Donglu from the moribund manor, why don't you go yourself? Why do you need to trouble elder brother Lu?" Seeing that Chu Xiu suddenly interrupted, Chen Tong was also a little displeased. However, Chu Xiu was a Xiantian expert, while he was only at the blood condensation realm. Furthermore, it seemed Chu Xiu was also Lu Fengxian's friend, so he could only say, "My Chen family is only a small family. Although my father is a Xiantian expert, those three families want the violet dogwood, so they definitely won't let my father leave. Even when I left this time, I had to use the excuse of going to the other prefectures to collect debts. Only after being searched by the people of the three clans did they allow me to leave the Cold River Prefecture. Therefore, my Chen clan has actually been placed under house arrest by the three clans. Not even a single servant can leave the Cold River Prefecture easily. But with my meager strength and reputation, I'm afraid I won't even be able to meet young master Donglu. But big brother Lu is different. Who doesn't know the name Young Marquis when in the west of Yen?" Big brother Lu reached the Xiantian realm at such a young age. I heard that young master Donglu likes to make friends with the young geniuses of Jianghu the most. If big brother Lu wants to meet him, he will definitely meet him. Chu Xiu secretly sneered and gave Lu Fengxian a look, indicating that he should temporarily not agree. Lu Fengxian didn't know what Chu Xiu's intentions were, but although he had only known Chu Xiu for 2 days, he knew that Chu Xiu wasn't a person who would do nothing for no reason. There must be a deeper meaning behind his actions. Therefore, Lu Fengxian said to Chen Tong, "Brother Chen, since those three clans won't make a move for the time being, you can stay here for a day. I still have some matters to take care of in Luyang town. Once I'm done, I'll immediately go help you." When Lu Fengxian said so, Chen Tong could only nod and agree. After all, he was asking for help. No matter how good Lu Fengxian's temper was, he couldn't force Lu Fengxian. After Chen Tong left, Lu Fengxian pulled Chu Xiu to a corner and asked, "Brother Chu, why did you stop me just now?" Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes and said, "Is Chen Tong your friend? But I think there's something wrong with Chen Tong. You treat him as a friend, but he doesn't treat you as a friend." Lu Fengxian was puzzled and asked, "Why do you say so?" Chu Xiu said faintly, "It's very simple. Those three clans just want the treasure. A man's wealth is his own ruin. Chen Tong just handed over the treasure directly. He doesn't have the strength, but he wants to keep the treasure and drag you, his friend, down with him. Has he ever considered you as a friend? Also, he insisted that you go to the Morgue Manor to help. Even if the people of the Morgue Manor will help in the end, you should know that he will benefit in the end. But the one who owes the Morgue Manor a favor is you, brother Lu." Seeing Chen Tong just now, Chu Xiu remembered something. It seemed that in the original plot, Donglu and Lu Fengxian were also good friends, and they had a good relationship. But in the end, Donglu cheated Lu Fengxian. In the original plot, Lu Fengxian helped Donglu get the secret treasure left by the Kunlun devil cult. 1,000 years ago, the Kunlun devil cult's demonic flames were monstrous and suppressed the world. If it weren't for the number one person in Taoism, immortal Ning Xuanji, the sect master of the true martial arts sect, fighting with Duge Weiwei, the Jianghu would still be shrouded in this monstrous demonic power at this time. Therefore, people in Jianghu could tolerate the diabolism, but they were extremely sensitive to the words Kunlun devil cult. Even if Nie Donglu was the young master of the Morgue Manor, if he got the secret treasure of the Kunlun devil cult, unless he handed it over, he would still be attacked by others. In the end, Nie Donglu used Lu Fengxian and made him bear the crime. In the end, Lu Fengxian was chased by the righteous martial arts world for several years, suffering in silence. But it was also because of that time that Lu Fengxian got the inheritance of the devil god LV Wen Ho while being chased, and became famous in Jianghu. He didn't know if Nie Donglu regretted the decision he made back then, pushing away a future strong person who was on his side with his own hands. Thinking about what happened today, Chu Xiu more or less knew what had happened. Lu Fengxian and Nie Donglu probably got to know each other because of this. Lu Fengxian went to Nie Donglu for help, and as the young master of the Morgue Manor, Nie Donglu naturally wouldn't refuse such a simple request. But at that time, Nie Donglu probably didn't care much about Lu Fengxian, because Lu Fengxian was only in the innate realm. Although she was young, it wasn't unusual. And with Lu Fengxian's personality, if Nie Donglu helped him, he would definitely help Nie Donglu. That was why he was willing to take the blame for Nie Donglu later on. Even when he was being chased, he didn't give up on Nie Donglu. Of course, Lu Fengxian wasn't an idiot. After that incident, the two of them went their separate ways. Lu Fengxian's personality was like this. He was too trusting of others, and only learned his lesson after suffering once. Unfortunately, he narrowly escaped death every time, so he was lucky. Since Nie Donglu intervened in the feud between him and Zhang Baitao, Chu Xiu didn't mind poaching him now, so that they wouldn't have the chance to stand on the same side anymore. As for whether Lu Fengxian would miss out on Marquis Lu's inheritance because of this, Chu Xiu wasn't worried. Marquis Lu's inheritance was simply prepared for Lu Fengxian. In the entire Jianghu, except for Lu Fengxian, it was almost impossible for anyone else to get it. If this incident really affected Lu Fengxian, then Chu Xiu only needed to tell Lu Fengxian a location, and the inheritance would definitely fall into Lu Fengxian's hands. On the other side, Lu Fengxian was also a little hesitant about what Chu Xiu said. Although Chu Xiu's words made sense, Lu Fengxian still didn't want to think badly of his friend. He said hesitantly, after all, he opened the treasure himself. It is normal that he doesn't want to hand it over. Also, it is just a favor. I can afford to owe him. Chu Xiu sneered. Brother Lu, you think too simply. It is not so easy to owe favors from the Morgue village. Do you know why the Ba Mountain Sword sect disciples were able to find 3 people to kill me in the northern Yen? It was because the young master of the Morgue village was the middleman. You owe the Morgue village a favor. In the future, if the young master wants you to return the favor, but he asks you to do something you don't want to do, will you return it or not? Lu Fengxian frowned. His personality was like this. He would repay kindness with kindness and enmity with enmity. It was impossible for other people to threaten him, but if they used favors to bind him, he couldn't refuse. Also, Lu Fengxian really hadn't thought that the reputable young master of the Morgue village would do something like pimping. Even if Nie Donglu personally helped Zhang Baitao get revenge, he would think highly of Nie Donglu. But Lu Fengxian still felt conflicted. Chen Tong was his good friend. If he directly refused, it would not be good. Chu Xiu shook his head and said, Brother Lu, I have not known you for long. Even if some things are not appropriate, I still have to say them. The so-called brotherhood in the Jianghu is mostly unreliable. The only things that can maintain the so-called brotherhood are power and profit. Because you are incarnate and have some fame in Yanxi, that Chen Tong will come to ask you. Otherwise, if you are a nameless person, he may not even bother to make friends with you. Lu Fengxian felt that some of Chu Xiu's ideas were a bit too extreme. But he still smiled and said, Brother Chu, are you telling me this because of profit? Chu Xiu shook his head and said, It's just a casual chat. It's because I have no profit relationship with you that I'm telling you this. However, at this moment, Chu Xiu suddenly changed the topic and said, Brother Lu, if you want to handle this matter properly, why don't you leave it to me? You can also take the opportunity to see if that friend of yours is really asking you for help or using you. Hearing Chu Xiu's words, Lu Fengxian immediately became serious and said, Brother Chu, you said before that you are not a nosy person, and you don't believe in the so-called brotherhood in the Jianghu. Why do you suddenly want to interfere in this matter? The corner of Chu Xiu's mouth showed a trace of a smile and said, The lie is that Brother Lu and I feel like old friends at first sight. I can't bear to see you being deceived by a villain, so I came to help you. As for the truth, the purple leaf dogwood is a 6th revolution spirit medicine. Even if it is not refined into a pill, its medicinal power is extremely amazing. If those small sects want it, I also want it. This time, I'll help you test the waters. If that Chen Tong doesn't have the intention to use you, then I'll have helped you in vain. If that Chen Tong really has such intentions, then we'll split the purple dogwood in half. No one will suffer a loss. What do you think? Chapter 64. As for Chu Xiu's suggestion, Lu Fengxian thought for a while and finally agreed. At this time, Lu Fengxian was not the jade-faced marquis, one who had experienced countless difficulties and finally obtained the inheritance of the devil god. Although he had been in Jianghu for several years and had seen the sinister people's hearts, he still believed in his own judgment of people. Unfortunately, the facts had proved that Lu Fengxian's judgment of people was really not good. By the way, Brother Chu, what are you going to do? Chu Xiu carefully told his plan to Lu Fengxian. After listening, Lu Fengxian hesitated and said, Is it too cruel to do this? Chu Xiu said in a deep voice, Brother Lu, I'm different from you in the way of doing things. It seems cruel to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots, but it can avoid a lot of trouble. For example, why was I besieged this time? Wasn't it because I didn't completely eliminate the Zhang family? Of course, Zhang Baitao wasn't in the Zhang family at that time, so I couldn't do anything. But since there is a chance this time, I won't hold back. But in the end, if Chen Tong really wants to use you, then the Chen family will be handed over to you. I only want the things. Lu Fengxian thought for a while and directly nodded in agreement. He was not a soft-hearted person, but sometimes he was more gullible. This was his strength, but also his weakness. On the second day, Chen Tong came to find Lu Fengxian early in the morning and said anxiously, Brother Lu, have you finished dealing with things here? Before Lu Fengxian could speak, Chu Xiu walked over and patted him on the shoulder. With a seemingly forthright smile, he said, Brother, don't worry. Brother Lu and I have already decided that we don't need to trouble the righteous manor with regards to your Chen family's matter. They may not have the time to manage such a small matter. Brother Lu and I will handle it. You came in a hurry yesterday and didn't introduce yourself. I am Chu Xiu, also a friend of Brother Lu. Chen Tong's facial expression changed slightly. He forced a smile and said, Brother Chu, I think it's better to ask the Morgue Manor to take action. The 3 major forces have nearly 10 innate lords. They are not to be trifled with. Chu Xiu waved his hand casually and said, So what? You are not an innate realm expert. You will know when you reach this realm. Even in the innate realm, your strength is not the same. The gap is huge. Lu Fengxian also nodded and said, Brother Chu is right. In fact, I am confident if I am alone. But since Brother Chu is here, I am more confident. Hearing Lu Fengxian said so, Chen Tong was also very helpless. He could only say, Then I will have to trouble you too. The Chen family was located in the Cold River Mansion of Linzhong County. It was not far from Liuyang Mountain. It was less than a day's journey. So when Lu Fengxian appeared yesterday, Chen Tong had already caught up. At this time, in the Cold River Mansion, the Chen family master, Chen Yuanji, and a group of Chen family elders and collateral disciples were anxiously waiting for Chen Tong's return. It was not uncommon for a treasure to be opened in the secret box but lead to a fatal disaster. Just as Chu Xiu guessed, the Chen family was not an idiot. The best way to solve this matter was to hand over the purple leaf dogwood. I can't afford to offend all 3 of you. So this thing will belong to whoever wins. I will not participate. I will suppress my greed and admit defeat. It's that simple. But with the treasure in hand, the Chen family was not willing to hand over a 6th revolution spiritual medicine. So in the end, Chen Yuanji thought of a countermeasure. The purple leaf dogwood could be given away, but not to the Black Tiger Gang and the other 2 forces. They had to give it to the righteous manor. If they gave it to the Black Tiger Gang and the other forces, they would not appreciate it. Instead, they would secretly ridicule the Chen family for not being able to keep the treasure. But if they could give it to the righteous manor, then as long as the Chen family had a little relationship with the righteous manor, it would be enough to benefit the Chen family a lot. So after knowing that Lu Fengxian appeared in Luyang town, he immediately sent Chen Tong to look for Lu Fengxian. He wanted to make use of Lu Fengxian's reputation to build a relationship with the righteous manor. Just as Chen Yuanji and the rest of the Chen family were anxiously waiting, a servant ran in and shouted, "Master! Young master is back with 2 Xiantian realm experts." Chen Yuanji was overjoyed when he heard this. If the young master could casually send 2 Xiantian realm experts, it must be the righteous manor. He immediately went out to greet them. When he saw Chu Xiu and Lu Fengxian behind Chen Tong, he immediately showed a humble smile and said, "These two are the young talents of the righteous manor. This time, for a small matter of my Chen family, we have to trouble the righteous manor. I am really sorry. I will prepare a banquet to welcome you." A faint smile appeared on Chu Xiu's face and he said, "We really shouldn't trouble the righteous manor for such a small matter. So the two of us came." Chen Yuanji felt that something was wrong. Chen Tong smiled bitterly and said, "This is my good friend young Marquis Wen Lu Fengxian. As for this is brother Lu's good friend, young master Chu Xiu." Hearing this, Chen Yuanji immediately frowned. He wanted to invite the righteous manor. "Why did you invite them?" Chen Yuanji cupped his hands towards Lu Fengxian and Chu Xiu and said, "My Chen family is very grateful that the two of you can come to help my Chen family. However, it is safer to invite the righteous manor in our current situation." Hearing this, Chu Xiu's expression immediately became gloomy. "Master Chen, what do you mean?" Chen Yuanji hurriedly said, "Young Master Chu, please listen." Chu Xiu directly waved his hand and interrupted Chen Yuanji's words. "I am not a young master, nor do I have the habit of being a young master. This time, your Chen family came to ask Brother Lu for help. I came to help your Chen family, because of Brother Lu. But now you say that you want to invite the righteous manor. What do you mean? Are you looking down on us? Brother Lu is a friend of your son, so he can ignore this. But you and I are not related. I rushed to help, but your Chen family is not willing to help. Master Chen, don't blame me for speaking harshly. You are being shameless by doing this." Chu Xiu took a step forward. An extremely strong pressure came from his body, causing Chen Yuanji's expression to change. Everyone's aura came from their own strength and status. Last time in Luyang town, Chu Xiu had killed 4 Khanate realm warriors of the same level. Among them were even Ba Mountain Sword Sect inner sect disciples, the elites of the Jianghu. This also made Chu Xiu realize what level he was in the Jianghu now. So when facing a small family leader like Chen Yuanji, his aura could definitely suppress the other party. Chu Xiu directly stared at Chen Yuanji and said, "Master Chen, since the two of us are already here, you do as you see fit. It is the first time I have seen someone come to help but ask for help. But I still have to remind you that my temper is not as good as Brother Lu's." Hearing Chu Xiu's vague threat, Chen Yuanji cursed in his heart. Cursing Chu Xiu was also cursing Chen Tong. They did not find the people from the morgue, but found such an unreasonable person who forced them to help. But now that they were here, even if the Chen clan wanted to go to the memorial hall, they had no way to find it. They could only accept this matter. However, if the two of them could really help the Chen clan protect the spiritual medicine, they would not suffer a loss. Chen Yuanji smiled bitterly and cupped his hands. "In that case, I will trouble you two young heroes." Chu Xiu directly waved his hand and said, "This matter is very simple. When I came, I already had a plan. Since the 3 families are afraid of each other, and did not make a move, then we will help them break this balance. But we need something to break this balance. Master Chen, lend us your purple dogwood." Chen Yuanji's expression suddenly changed. "Young hero Chu, what do you need this thing for?" Chu Xiu faintly said, "Without enough attraction, what can I use to break the balance of the 3 families? Is Master Chen worried that we will take the purple dogwood for ourselves? Even if Master Chen does not trust me, do you not trust Brother Lu behind me?" Lu Fengxian did not speak. Before coming, he and Chu Xiu had discussed it. Everything would be decided by Chu Xiu. Now hearing Chu Xiu's words, Lu Fengxian also said, Master Chen, although I Lu Fengxian am not a good person, I know what to take and what not to take. If you don't believe me, you can ask Brother Chen whether I, Lu Fengxian, am worthy of his trust. Chen Yuanji hurriedly said. Of course this one did not mean that. After saying that, Chen Yuanji gave a look to the servant. After a while, the servant came over with a box. It was a secret box, but it was a very rare wooden box. Chen Yuanji did not give the secret box to Chu Xiu and Lu Fengxian, but directly handed it to Chen Tong and said, After all, this is my Chen family's matter. I can't just let you two young heroes take action. You also go and help. A faint smile appeared on Chu Xiu's face. Lu Fengxian was expressionless, but obviously, he was also a little uncomfortable at this time. Chen Yuanji's attitude clearly showed that he did not trust them, afraid that they would take the purple dogwood. Chapter 65. Chu Xiu looked at the box containing the purple dogwood and said, TSK, I have never seen a 6th revolution spirit herb before. I wonder if Patriarch Chen can show it to me? Chen Yuanji smiled awkwardly and said, It's not a problem to take a look, but the medicinal properties of this purple dogwood are a bit strange. When it is sealed, the medicinal properties will dissipate a lot every time it is opened. When we opened the box, the sealing formation was destroyed, so a part of the medicinal properties had dissipated. So we are trying to find someone to seal the purple dogwood again. Chu Xiu didn't insist, and he just revealed a mysterious smile. He turned to Chen Tong and said, Since those 3 clans are pressuring your Chen clan so tightly, then we shouldn't delay any longer. Let's just attack. Tell me about the strength and situation of those 3 clans. Chen Tong hurriedly said, Among the 3 forces, the 3 Mountains sect has 3 innate experts. These 3 people were actually bandits of 3 mountains in the early years. After they were annihilated by the Northern Yan army, the 3 of them were lucky enough to escape. The Yu clan is slightly weaker, but the Yu clan's patriarch and his brother are both Xiantian experts. The strongest among the 3 clans should be the Black Tiger Gang. The leader of the Black Tiger Gang, Chao Dahai, is a peak Xiantian expert. The 2 Xiantian vice leaders are also in their prime. They have thousands of members and are the strongest force. Black Tiger Gang? Chu Xiu seemed to have seen this person before. He nodded and said, In that case, bring us to the Black Tiger Gang first. The Black Tiger Gang was also in the Cold River Mansion. When Chen Tong brought 2 people to the Black Tiger Gang, the gang leader Chao Dahai thought that the Chen clan had finally thought things through, and was preparing to offer the treasures. He did not expect that Chen Tong would actually bring 2 Xiantian realm martial artists. Chao Dahai rubbed his bald head. His eyes revealed a cold expression as he said, What is the meaning of your Chen clan's actions? Do you think you can do whatever you want in the Cold River Prefecture just because you found 2 Xiantian experts? As soon as he finished speaking, the 2 vice leaders who were also Xiantian experts waved their hands. Immediately, a group of people rushed forward and surrounded the 3 people. Don't you recognize me, sect leader Chao? Chu Xiu stood up and said calmly. Chao Dahai carefully looked at Chu Xiu, and suddenly exclaimed, Chu Xiu, you are the Chu Xiu who destroyed the Zhang family. Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows and said, Oh, has my reputation already spread that far? Chao Dahai took a deep look at Chu Xiu and didn't say anything. The Zhang family was just a small family in the Shanyang prefecture. They were quite far away from the Black Tiger Gang, and they didn't have much contact with each other. Under normal circumstances, Chao Dahai didn't know about the Zhang family. However, ever since the Zhang family snatched the secret box from his hands during the last auction, Chao Dahai felt that something was amiss. The Zhang family was usually very stingy. They had never spent so much money at an auction. What was wrong with him this time? How could he be so generous? Therefore, ever since that time, Chao Dahai had been paying attention to the news of the Shanyang prefecture. He didn't expect that the news of the Shanyang prefecture being destroyed came right after, and the one who destroyed it was this Chu Xiu, the inconspicuous young man who stood behind Zhang Songling. Chao Dahai didn't care about the Zhang family. Zhang Songling was an old guard dog. The only thing he could do for so many years was to raise his son and send him to the Ba Mountain Sword sect. This was also because the competition in the Shanyang prefecture was relatively small, and the major forces were in harmony. If it was in the Cold River prefecture, based on Zhang Baichen's conduct, the Zhang family would have been destroyed 8 times. Even so, the fact that Chu Xiu destroyed the Zhang family by himself was enough to make him feel wary. Of course, right now, Chao Dahai didn't know that Zhang Baitao and the others had also died at the hands of Chu Xiu. The entire Zhang family's direct line was completely dead. Otherwise, he would be even more wary. Chao Dahai waved his hand and had his subordinates put down their weapons. He looked coldly at Chu Xiu and said, "I know you. You destroyed the Zhang family. But why are you here today? Do you want to stand up for the Chen family?" Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "I have no relationship with the Chen family, but this friend of mine is good friends with the Chen family, so he came to us for help." Chao Dahai sneered and said, "Aren't you trying to stand up for the Chen family?" "No, the Chen family can't even protect the purple leaf dogwood. Why should I protect it for them?" When Chen Tong heard this, he wanted to say something but was stopped by Lu Fengxian. Chu Xiu didn't care about him and said directly, "An innocent man will get into trouble because of his wealth. If you have a treasure in your hands, you should either hand it over or protect it. Those who don't have the strength and are still stubbornly holding on are courting death. Those who don't know themselves are wise. So this time, I came to you to prepare to cooperate with you. You, me, and the Chen family. It's a win-win cooperation." When he heard Chu Xiu, Chao Dahai couldn't help but say, "Tell me, how do you want to cooperate?" Chu Xiu said lightly, "It's very simple. Now that the 3 parties want the purple leaf dogwood, the Chen family can't keep it, so they decided to hand it over. But if the Chen family handed it over for nothing, it would be too much of a loss. So we want to cooperate with you to destroy the 3 Mountains sect and the Yu family. When the dust settles, the purple leaf dogwood will belong to you, and the 3 Mountains sect and the Yu family's property will belong to the Chen family. As for me and brother Lu, the 2 of us only want the cultivation resources of these 2 families. Brother Lu and I are rogue cultivators, so we lack a lot of things. The purple leaf dogwood isn't a medicinal pill but a spiritual medicine. With our connections, it would be too difficult to find someone to refine it into a medicinal pill. Fortunately, we didn't need it in the end. We just want the medicinal pills and other cultivation resources of these 2 families." Chao Dahai touched his chin, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He said, "It sounds good, but why should I cooperate with you? With the strength of my Black Tiger gang. Even if we don't cooperate with you, we have the highest chance of getting the secret box." Chu Xiu stretched out his hand, condensing his heaven-piercing, baleful qi inner strength into one of his fingers. He lightly drew a circle on the pillar of the Black Tiger gang's lobby. With a kacha sound, the stone pillar, which would require a person's arms to encircle it, directly tilted and collapsed. The place that Chu Xiu drew was even more neat than a knife's cut. Chu Xiu said lightly, "Of course, with our strength. If we help you, you can smoothly deal with those 2 families. If you don't cooperate with us, then we can go find the 3 Mountains sect or the Yu family. With my and brother Lu's strength, no matter who we help, their chances of winning will skyrocket. I don't know if this explanation is enough. Moreover, this time both of us came with sincerity. The purple leaf dogwood is in Chen Tong's hands." Looking at the neatly broken stone pillar, Chao Dahai's expression slightly changed. With his strength, it was not difficult for him to shatter the stone pillar with a single punch. However, it was the first time he had seen someone like Chu Xiu, who had gathered his strength together and forcefully broken the stone pillar. If such a powerful and sharp inner strength hit a person's body, even if Chu Xiu didn't use a knife, he would be able to forcibly cut open the person's stomach. Looking at the secret box, then looking at the stone pillar, Chao Dahai's expression immediately changed. He laughed and said, "Brother Chu, don't mind me, I was just saying. How do you want to deal with those 2 families, Brother Chu? Just say it." This Chu Xiu was able to destroy the Zhang family. Obviously, he wasn't a good person. In all fairness, Chao Dahai didn't want outsiders to participate in this matter. What Chao Dahai was really afraid of was Chu Xiu's threat to cooperate with the other families. The strongest Black Tiger gang could refuse Chu Xiu, but the weakest of the three families, the Yu family, definitely wouldn't refuse. If this Chu Xiu really cooperated with the Yu family, then the Black Tiger gang would be the unlucky ones. Chu Xiu said indifferently, "The Black Tiger gang in our side, excluding the Chen family's master, have 5 Xiantian masters. Our strength can definitely suppress the other side. To shoot a man, first shoot the horse. To capture the bandits, first capture the leader. Tomorrow, I will ask the Chen family's master to release a message to summon the Tri-Mountain Sect's sect leader and the 2 Xiantian masters from the Yu family to the Chen family. When that time comes, I will make the first move. Chief Chao, you will lead your men to attack from the back. If there are no accidents, those 5 people will definitely die. When that time comes, with the strength of the Black Tiger gang, it shouldn't be difficult to eradicate the remnants of those 2 families." Chao Dahai clapped his hands and said, "No problem. We will do as Brother Chu said." Chu Xiu cupped his hands and said, "In that case, Chief Chao, let's have a pleasant cooperation." Chao Dahai also grinned and cupped his hands and said, "Let's have a pleasant cooperation." After that, Chu Xiu didn't stay any longer. He immediately left with Lu Fengxian and Chen Tong. After leaving the Black Tiger gang, Chen Tong couldn't help but ask, "Brother Chu, didn't you say that you wanted to deal with those 3 families? Why are you working with the Black Tiger gang now?" Chu Xiu glanced at him and said lightly, "I lied to him. How could you believe that? After dealing with those 2 families, we will deal with the Black Tiger gang. Brother Lu, your father, and I will work together. Do you think we can't defeat those 3 people from the Black Tiger gang?" Chen Tong nodded in understanding, but LV Fengxian beside him shook her head secretly. From the beginning until now, Chu Xiu hadn't said a word of truth. Of course, Lu Fengxian only hoped that the Chen family wouldn't lie to her in the end. Otherwise, no one would want to see the consequences. At this time, in the Black Tiger gang, one of the deputy leaders asked Chao Dahai, "Chief, are you really going to work with Chu Xiu? Is this person really reliable?" Chao Dahai touched his bald head and snorted coldly, "Reliable my ass. I just said it and you believed it. Temporarily stabilize him so that he doesn't cooperate with the Yu family or the 3 Mountains sect. You should have heard of the Zhang family of the Shanyang prefecture. Their eldest son joined the Ba Mountain sword sect of West Chu. That Zhang family was destroyed by Chu Xiu. Previously at the auction, this Chu Xiu pretended to be a disciple of the Zhang family and had Zhang Songling come forward to snatch a secret box from me. In the blink of an eye, the Zhang family was destroyed by this kid. This kid has a criminal record. We have to be careful." Chapter 66. Chao Dahai looked like a brute and brainless, a typical Jianghu person. But in fact, his mind was much more meticulous than most people. After the auction at Shanyang Prefecture, he felt that something was wrong with the Zhang family. That was why he sent people to Shanyang Prefecture to investigate, and found out that the Zhang family was destroyed by Chu Xiu. Moreover, if he was really brainless, the Black Tiger gang had 3 innate experts, so he wouldn't be the gang leader. "Then what should we do?" one of the deputy gang leaders asked. Chao Dahai snorted coldly and said, "See that pillar? Chu Xiu is showing off to us. Although I'm not afraid of him, I really don't have any confidence against this kid. So this time let's spend some money and find external help. I heard that old guy Su Chongyang was driven out by the giant spirit gang and recently returned to the Cold River Mansion. That old guy is a bit muddle-headed. How good would it be to be a local tyrant in the Cold River Mansion? He insisted on dissolving the gang he built and joined the giant spirit gang of the 6 gangs. But in just a short time, I heard that he participated in a gang fight in the giant spirit gang and was driven out after losing. With his stubborn character, he was fine in the Cold River Mansion, but he dared to join the 6 gangs of the 6 gangs. He was simply looking for trouble for himself. However, although this old guy is a bit muddle-headed, his strength is not to be underestimated. When he was in the Cold River Mansion, he had already reached the inner invulnerability stage of the 5th level of the Imperial Qi realm. After that, he joined the giant spirit gang. Although he didn't step into the physical invulnerability stage, he still learned many powerful martial arts techniques. Now, although Su Chongyang is old, his strength shouldn't have declined much. Ask him to help at the last moment. Even if Chu Xiu plays tricks, it will be useless. After giving some instructions to the gang members, Chao Dahai directly left the Black Tiger gang and went to a manor outside the Cold River Mansion. Su Chongyang was a veteran of the Jianghu in the Cold River Mansion. When he was young, he was in the limelight and had a big gang under him. Unfortunately, when he was at his peak, he took the initiative to disband his gang and join the giant spirit gang of the 6 gangs of human harmony. He took the initiative to start from a small gang. If he was really able to rise to a good position in the giant spirit gang, then no one would say anything. But half a year ago, he suddenly returned to the Cold River Mansion. Only after everyone carefully inquired about it did they find out that this Su Chongyang had actually chosen the wrong side in a gang struggle and was driven out. Su Chongyang did not have much contact with the local Jianghu people after he returned to the Cold River Manor. Instead, he bought a manor outside the Cold River Manor and retired there peacefully. It was unknown whether it was because of his old age or because he was disheartened by this matter. When Chao Dahai arrived at Su Chongyang's manor, he saw Su Chongyang practicing his fists against a few metal poles. Chao Dahai walked over with a smile and cupped his hands. "I haven't seen you for more than 10 years. Senior Su is still as elegant as ever." Su Chongyang was less than 60 years old this year, so he wasn't too old. He snorted coldly and said, "Still as elegant as ever? I'm afraid you're all laughing at I for not knowing the immensity of heaven and earth. Back then, I insisted on joining the giant spirit gang, but now I've been driven back." Chao Dahai hurriedly smiled apologetically. "Others may think that, but don't you know my character? Those who laugh at you are just jealous people. If they wanted to join the giant spirit gang, I reckon that the giant spirit gang wouldn't even bother to accept them." Hearing Chao Dahai's compliment, Su Chongyang's expression became a little better. He invited Chao Dahai to the guest room and had someone bring a cup of tea before saying, "This old man has already decided to retire from the Jianghu, so why did you come to find me?" Chao Dahai cupped his hands and said, "Originally, I didn't want to ask Senior Su for help, but my Black Tiger gang has encountered some trouble and would like to ask Senior Su to help kill a person." Su Chongyang's face revealed a trace of hesitation. His retirement from the Jianghu was not a joke, but ever since he was driven out by the giant spirit gang, he was indeed a little disheartened. At the same time, he also lacked energy. Otherwise, even if he was old, with his inner aura realm strength, it wouldn't be a problem for him to establish a force around the Cold River Mansion. Seeing Su Chongyang's hesitation, Chao Dahai said with a smile, "Senior Su, please rest assured. This time, I only asked you to deal with the Xiantian realm martial artist. How could there be any experts in the Cold River Mansion? Moreover, after this matter is completed, I still have 1,000,000 taels of silver and 10 500-year-old ginseng shipped from Liaodong. I will definitely not let Senior Su suffer a loss." Hearing this, Su Chongyang's heart suddenly moved. Even if he was driven out by the giant spirit gang, he still had some wealth. However, since he had decided to retire from the Jianghu, he could only spend and not take in. The temptation of 1,000,000 taels of silver was not small for him, especially the 500-year-old ginseng, which could slow down the decline of qi and blood. For a martial artist like him who was no longer at the peak of qi and blood, and was about to age, it was more attractive than 1,000,000 taels of silver. Su Chongyang only thought for a moment and said, "All right, I agree to this matter." Chao Dahai said a few more words of flattery, but in fact, he was sneering in his heart. This Senior Su did not seem to have made any progress in the giant spirit gang these years. The way he did things was still so rash. Chao Dahai did not inquire about the other party's strength and background. Perhaps in his eyes, as long as it was a Xiantian realm existence, then he could deal with it. However, this time, Chao Dahai really did not trick him. He only invited Su Chongyang to prevent Chu Xiu from cheating on him. Of course, if Chu Xiu did not plan to cheat on him, he would have the same plan. At noon the next day, Qin Yuanji directly invited the people from the Tri-Mountain sect and the Yu family to come over in the name of the Qin family. Chao Dahai also seemed to have just heard the news and also came to the Chun family. In the living room, the three men from the Tri-Mountain sect were all dressed in black robes. Ferocious auras radiated from their bodies. They were bandits to begin with. Even though they were no longer in the business of bandits, the killing intent they exuded was still very strong. One of the martial artists with a hooked nose was the Tri-Mountain sect's sect leader, Qi Lindong. Seeing that Chen Yuanji still did not appear, he could not help but frown. What is the Chen family doing? Do they want to hand over the purple dogwood? Yu Qinghai, the Yu family's patriarch, said lightly. No matter what tricks they play, we will definitely get the purple dogwood this time. Chao Dahai and the two deputy leaders of the Black Tiger Gang sat to the side without saying anything. However, he looked at the people from the Yu family and the Tri-Mountain sect, as if he was looking at a dead man. From now on, it was his Black Tiger Gang's turn to dominate the Cold River Prefecture. Just at that moment, someone walked out from the inner hall. However, it was not Chen Yuanji. The person in the lead was Chu Xiao. He placed the box containing the secret box on the table and sat in the main seat. Chen Yuanji and the others stood behind him. When the people from the Tri-Mountain sect and the Yu family saw Chu Xiao and Lu Fengxian, their expressions changed slightly. Yu Qinghai directly snorted. Chen Yuanji, what is the meaning of this? Chu Xiao said lightly. Everyone, don't worry. Today's matter has nothing to do with Patriarch Chen. Is this what you want? As he said that, Chu Xiao directly shook the secret box in his hand. Yu Qinghai felt that something was wrong. He frowned and said, Who are you? What is the meaning of this? Chu Xiao placed his hand on the red sleeve saber and said lightly, Patriarch Yu, you don't need to know who I am. You only need to know that I am here today to send you on your way. That is enough. As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Xiao unsheathed the red sleeve saber in his hand. A crimson saber light shone brightly between heaven and earth. It was incomparably magnificent and also contained endless killing intent. Even Chao Dahai, who already knew of Chu Xiao's plan, did not react when he suddenly drew his saber. In his opinion, Chu Xiao should have calmed the other party down first, and then waited for an opportunity to launch a surprise attack. However, the moment he appeared, Chu Xiao immediately drew his saber. What was going on? In fact, for the current Chu Xiao, since he killed Zhang Baitao and the other three, he was almost at the peak of the innate realm. Few martial artists of the same level could match him. Since he already had absolute confidence, what was the point of talking nonsense with this group of people? Just make a move and end the battle quickly. In the crimson saber light, the power of piercing the sun and moon suddenly erupted. A thick layer of bloody killing intent enveloped the edge of Chu Xiao's saber, giving his saber a trace of extremely cruel aura. It was not until the saber was about to reach his body that the biting chill and killing intent woke Yu Qinghai up. The chair under him was abruptly shattered by his internal strength. His figure quickly retreated. A short saber appeared in front of him. In a hurry, he slashed it horizontally, trying to stop Chu Xiao. However, how could Chu Xiao's saber be so easy to block? This saber was slashed out with the Azure Dragon in the sleeve saber technique, and then with the red sleeve saber technique in the dusk drizzle as the form. Finally, the powerful killing intent and killing intent of piercing the sun and moon were condensed into power and attached to the edge of the saber. It could be said that the power of this saber, whether it was speed, strength or momentum, had reached the extreme. It was incomparably terrifying. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.